Welcome to episode 111 of the Grip Strip podcast. Dalé wins again. Guy Ocho, the number one car of Ross Chastain, took a win last lap, last few thousand feet of the race. He goes and gets a second win of the 2022 Cup Series season. We'll get into that here amongst many racing series and the NFL draft on this episode. My name is Philip Matthew. I'm here with my co-host Joshua Fine. What's going on, man?
Hey, I'm doing great, Phil. We had a great weekend of racing in Talladega. F1 was okay-ish at Imola, depending on who you're a fan of, but it was a lot of action that went on. And then, of course, we got a lot to talk about tonight with all that racing. And then, of course, you mentioned NFL draft. Jacksonville Jaguars have the number one pick overall once again. We'll see which direction they go in this time. It's a little bit more undetermined this time of who they could go. Not quite as straight and narrow like Trevor Lawrence, but now we have a couple of choices. So exciting weekend of sports coming up with that, and then all the rest of the racing that we got to talk about tonight on this show.
Yeah, you got based on bulky four guys that are in play for the number one overall pick, and rumors that they may want to move back, but considering what the draft is, there really isn't any value on that. On the Niners side, there's the Deebo Samuel saga, which just adds to how horrendous of an offseason the Niners have had. But nothing is coming of that. They're not going to trade him, so Deebo can cry. I love him. He's a great player. But there's better ways to basically say, I want more money and I want a new contract. You don't have to go scorched earth. At least he's not Ben Simmons. But that's something for later. We'll talk about that in the NFL part of the show here later on. So stay tuned for that. Cup and Xfinity at Talladega. Go through all that, and all the wreck race cars. Might get a little mention about some of the argy-bargy that went on in the ARCA farce. The Parmigiano Reggiano Grand Prix, which saw Fish Lips dominate the weekend, and Charles Leclerc look pretty average and make a pretty weak mistake, while his teammate, for the second race in a row, had a horrible weekend. And Carlos Sainz, after getting a extension, we'll get into all that. And Lewis Hamilton got lapped and was 13th. So that was pretty terrible for people like me who are fans of his. The roundup will be jam-packed this week. We got MotoGP, Moto2. They were in Portugal last week. They'll be in Jerez this week. F2 and F3 at Imola. World Superbikes were at Assen. Rally Croatia. Road Atlanta hosted Moto America. British touring cars were at Donington for the first race of the year. NHRA raced at Houston Raceway Park for the last time. Tony Stewart was happy about at least one of the cars there. IMSA will be racing this weekend at Laguna Seca for the first proper sprint race. The supercars will be back at Barbagallo or Wanneroo Raceway this weekend for a night race. And Formula E will be running the Monaco E-Prix for the first time in a few years, so that'll be interesting, cool. I think they'll be using the vast majority of the circuit too, so it'll actually be nice. And then DTM will be coming out at the Algarve here to start their season, I believe. And then, or in the first couple of races, Baba for the Indy cars here as a precursor to the month of May, a busy month of May for the IndyCar series, and what will, of course, lead to the Indianapolis 500. One of the standout races on the calendar these days is the Barber race. Joseph Newgarden, his second home track, has dominated there over the years. It's been a Penske track in general too. Well, what IndyCar track isn't a Penske track, to be honest? But we'll preview that. Last year's winner is the defending series champion in Alex Palou. It was his first career win. We'll do triple header at Dover Motor Speedway. That makes me nauseous. So now you have the stupid SMI rules, so you can't bring stuff in, overpriced concessions, and the whole thing that comes with SMI. They put out a thing about selling tickets for 2023. I figure so they're going to make it look like they're not going to get rid of the race, but by 2024, that race is probably going to go to Nashville Fairgrounds. It won't be next year. It'll just be the following year. That's all they're doing with that. Typical SMI. But we'll see what happens. The next-gen car, there's a lot of hope, at least with the next-gen car for the racing at Dover. So we'll see what happens with that after the typical shit that you see at Talladega, where they wreck 50% of the field per, Tony Stewart, what he says what NASCAR and the fans want, which is true when you consider most of the fan base they seem to answer to. We'll do NFL draft talk, of course. The Jacksonville Jaguars, Josh's team, have a big pick to make, and they need to hit on it, and they don't really have a GM that's great at it. They have a coach that can win, but I'm not so sure about the GM. They probably would have had Byron Leftwich, and they could have made a better pick if they had a better GM, but that's beside the point. We'll see what they do there. The Fall Brawl League is back. We got in. I've been checking on Yahoo. I've always wanted to get within like that first 1,000 teams signed up or re-up, so we did. So I'm really happy about it. I like the number that we are. Our league number is 804 or 848 or something like that. Something there's the 8s and the 4s and the 2 it's the numerology. I'm liking it. It's weird.
Good set of numbers there, and yeah, your boy here is going to try and win this league this year, so better watch out for me.
Well, I mean, you've been there literally 2 years. You've been in the playoffs. You've been right there. Vic is the only reason why you probably didn't win it. Vic is the main reason why none of us were able to, because he lived on the waiver wire. Fucking tool. God love him, but he's one of my best friends, but I can say that. I don't care. The guy literally sat on the waiver wire all day, and he probably heard about other guys that nobody knew they existed, and he probably was finding out about their whole entire life story. It's what happens when you get married, I guess. For us bachelors, when you get married, one of the things you do is you spend more time playing fantasy football. Well, that's before he has kids. Then once he has kids, then yeah, he's fucked. That's what Joe's problem is. He hasn't won since he's had kids. And Wilson's kind of been on and off now since he's had his kids. So it's an advantage for us. We'll talk about that. Josh will do his sim segment. Of course, his boy Junebug was on the telecast this weekend, and that might have been the first Talladega race that I actually wanted to watch because he was on there. And him and Mike Joy did a great job. We'll get into that. But the fact is, he won a couple days before, flying up, drew into Bobby Allison, except he didn't hit the catch fence. He just crossed the line backwards and won in a moon car race. And some guy named Mooncar who looks like a typical inbred.
Yeah, it's Moonhead.
He looks like a combination of like Ed Barrier, Jeff Green, and like somebody who would have one of those MAGA memes going on, and they'd be sitting in their truck with the sunglasses. He looks like that typical one, but he had a great call. Whatever his stereotype he looks like, but he looks like 1919, like he looks like a morph of Jason Keller and Jeff Green from like 1994. That's what that guy looks like. And somebody who would be on Moonshiners. Yeah. That's literally what that guy looks like. But he was there. He announced it. Junebug went across the line, ass end first in the air, and the nose crossed the line. That 87 Monte Carlo had the proper insurance on it, and he got it across the line. So that was a big start to his weekend, and that's where we will start. Talladega was typical, with lots of wrecking and whatever. But Ross Chastain, Armando's guy, Justin Marks and Armando's guy, the person that they wanted to bring to the team, has now won his second career race. Went through the roof hatch, did the watermelon smash. That thing was they did a lot of details. Kelly Crandall, one of the good beat writers in the sport, did a deep dive on the watermelons, or Alex Andreev, one of they both did like deep dives on this watermelon deal. It was on its last leg, so it's a good thing he won. And he sits there and eats that thing while Regan Smith's interviewing him. You gotta love him. That's perfect product placement when you're a seventh generation watermelon farmer. But he had earlier in the race, he made a move that was probably questionable at best, blocking, trying to stay on the lead lap. Could have caused a huge wreck. But in the end, he got away with it, got back on the lead lap, and then from there was one of the best cars in the field, along with his teammate Daniel Suarez, until he got wrecked. It was an interesting race, to say the least. Eric Jones was somebody who definitely ran up front all day, led 25 laps. Wasn't the most laps led by any means, but you had multiple cars there. I mean, what is it? Suarez led 28 laps. So the what do you call Trackhouse cars were up there. Larson led 32. Byron led 38. So the Hendrick duo were the ones. Those two cars, and I'm thinking that Larson and Byron ran for speed in qualifying, and then Bowman and Elliott ran for setup and for a little more handling compared to what they usually would do, which all of them would be up front. So now that's something that they're going to look at as we go to Atlanta in July for the next super speedway type race, and then of course Daytona for the cutoff, where in terms of qualifying and how they do things, that might be something to look at. But Chastain's second win of the year, Austin Dillon second, Kyle Busch third after backdooring that win at Bristol, Larson fourth, Truex fifth. He won both stages at the 500. Didn't lead a lap yesterday, but gets a top five. Toyotas and Chevys really were dominant yesterday. Eric Jones sixth, had the chance to win that deal, and then just wasn't able to close it. Made the wrong move. Clyde in seventh, McDowell eighth, Bowman ninth. So 3 Hendrick cars in the top 10, and then like 4 Hendrick engines there as well. And then Kevin Harvick rounds out your top 10. Blaney was my pick to win in the fantasy game for Michael Sanders. Finished 11th. He led 23 laps, though. So, I mean, we'll get into some of the other people and some of the stuff that happened over the day, but Ross Chastain, Josh, gets another win, solidifies himself in the playoff, and now him and Phil Surgeon, that whole entire Trackhouse team, they're really looking at, the rest of the season, kind of setting themselves up to make a run in the playoffs, while you have the big name some of these big name drivers that are struggling, don't have a win. Some of these teams have, they may have a win, but they're not really running that well. They're running well, and they've been running well all year. So it's not, there's no shock anymore. Now it's, you have to worry about Chastain because he has no fucks to give. He doesn't give a fuck about anybody. He's come from being a starting Parker, and now you're giving him a car to win. Um, that's dangerous, and he is somebody to look at. He gave up that opportunity at Nice. They had that choke job special at Phoenix a couple of years ago when he had won all those truck races, and then they shit the bed there. And then he didn't get the opportunity in the Xfinity Series in a Ganassi car. That Ross Chastain wants this cup in the worst way, for the little guys, and how much it would mean for his family and all that. But he's putting himself in a position to do it for sure. And Justin Marks and this new Gen 7 car and Dalé are looking pretty good right now, in regards to what's going on early in this season.
I mean, yeah, you've got Ross Chastain. He's really been on it since probably Las Vegas, the third race this year, when led a bunch of laps there, and you could tell that there's something special going to be happening this year for just not that car, but the entire Trackhouse team. And yeah, he's making Armando Dalé, aka Pitbull, looking real smart with his investment that he made last year, getting an investment into the Trackhouse team and proving they can run up front immediately after last year they were building things up and now they're running up front. So they've been, not just this isn't just a surprise Talladega win like some Talladega races have gone, but this is a legitimate racer who's made his name in the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series, and has proven to be able to go up against the best of the best and be able to go out and compete and win races. So he knows what he's doing in this car. But I mean, the way that this played out, would have thought that maybe Eric Jones or Kyle Larson would have won this race, but just the way that the draft works, Kyle Larson, he doesn't really have a whole lot of experience. Well, he does have a lot of experience now, but just this isn't his strong suit. This is the one type of racing where probably takes away a lot of his advantage because he's definitely a guy that is known for driving the car, and this is probably not the type of racing that suits him. So had a chance to win, but just didn't. I don't think he set himself up properly to be able to make the winning move against Eric Jones there, who, by the way, ended up going the entire race without changing left side tires. So take that for what you will for tire wear at Talladega right now. But excellent strategy by the crew chief, Dave Ellens, there on the number 43 car. But the finish, though, we had Kyle Larson try to make a move and then got into Kurt Busch, and then that sent Bubba Wallace into the wall. And in the meantime, you had Ross Chastain basically sneak around the bottom and take the win. Kind of reminiscent of was it Ron Bouchard 1981 with Darrell Waltrip, and forget who the other driver was in that one, but that was a kind of a same type of deal there where two cars fighting it out for the win, and then guy in third just sneaks on by and takes the win there. So the racing there with Talladega at this next gen car, I mean, it's pretty solid. I felt like you had your drafting trains and your packs and everything, and then you saw when you weren't in the draft, if you didn't have a drafting partner, you just saw the difference, the massive difference if you were on your own. There's multiple points where if a car got stuck in the middle, they really sunk to the back real fast, as if they were like in quicksand or something like that, and everybody else drive on by them. But it also does prove that you need to have at least three cars, if you want to sustain a run for multiple laps to try to reach up to the lead and make moves and everything. Okay, yeah. So Terry Labonte and Darrell Waltrip. I thought it was Terry Labonte, but I couldn't remember there. But anyways, though,
Yeah, I thought it was too, and I just confirmed it. So
yeah, yeah. But anyways, though, going back to this type of racing, like I mean, you can see cars like doing the two-car tandem stuff, and it worked, but it really only works if you're already up front and you have a guy behind you that can really push the car and really push you up to the front. But if you're sitting back in like 15th or something like that, you really have to have somebody behind you and then a couple of cars behind that car to really sustain something, because you have to be able to, they call it the energy, momentum, whatever you want to call it. You have to have a lot of that to be able to work your way up to the front if you're
The
coming from the
inertia,
back. Inertia, that's the new one.
I don't know how many times I heard that word. It was ridiculous. The inertia from Junebug.
Oh my god. Okay, well, yeah, I mean, hey, I'm Junebug guy. I mean, as you see, I've got the shirt and
Yeah,
everything, and
yeah.
displayed my fandom for multiple times on this show. But I mean, yeah, right there, yeah, that
Well,
that,
he
that didn't make
thinks
any
about
sense.
compression. He thinks about compression and combustion when he was throwing that fart machine on Davis. So the fact is, he thinks about when certain words get in his head, he's going to say them. So he thinks about compression. You're going to think about concussions, or it's like he's going to be talking about concussions. You're going to be thinking about compression. And he was also talking about inertia. Um, that's how he made two kids. But yeah, you can keep going.
No, yeah, that's a inertia. That's how you made two kids. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess that's what you get for Boomer Hauer, you know, being a TV announcer or whatever. But I mean, he's doing a pretty good job regardless, though. So got to give it to him there. I mean, he's the best announcer for Fox this year, and at least
Yeah,
they had somebody that knew what he was talking about on the broadcast.
exactly.
Besides Mike Joy, who can't carry the show anymore. But I mean, yeah, that was basically the racing there. Saw the kind of the mix between two-car tandeming and the instability. Like if you push too hard, you could really see drivers get loose. And if you push too hard, obviously, you had wrecks. Like you saw the stack up there, and Bubba Wallace got into the back of Joey Logano and hit the wall and touched off one of the big ones and everything. So I mean, that was the type of racing we saw basically all weekend in Cup, and even in Xfinity, it was kind of like that too. There wasn't really a whole lot of, I wouldn't say there was a lot of wrecking, because I mean there was in the first two stages, right? There was a lot of wrecking, but it was mostly single car accidents or small, like less than five cars or whatever, except for the Joey Logano crash. But there wasn't any like I guess historical wrecks like you see in the past from Talladega, where there was like 20 cars involved and getting taken out in the crash, and you just have like half the field riding around with crash damage. There wasn't quite like that, so there's still a good number of competitive cars left at the end there for Talladega. So it was kind of a mix of clean racing and then a bunch of small ones, I guess. And they, I think they did say that the final stage went caution free. So
Yeah, they did.
I think,
This last 62 laps
yep,
went caution free, which is pretty impressive considering what the level of driving standards has become in any major NASCAR series. The fact that they went 62 laps was something. You go back to the days, the record was Mark Martin back in 97. They ran a 500-mile Talladega race in under 3 hours, which means there was once upon a time there was 43 drivers that could sit there and respect each other enough to drive a clean race. Now, with the stupidity of stages and all the other gimmicks they got, they're not going to be able to get it under 3 hours. Fine, but they ran 62 laps without running. They were close, obviously close. But what you're saying, Josh, is true. To run 62 laps and not have a caution is nice. Harkens back to the old days when they actually had to race the whole way, and kind of try to take care of each other. I also think the next gen car, to a point, has played a little bit of a role in that, because losing equipment. Ross Chastain used the same car to win Coda and this race. When you're talking about how the equipment is right now, destroying a race car is not a great thing. And when you're talking about Bubba, he got hooked and wrecked at Atlanta trying to win the race. He gets run over because of Kyle Larson making a horrible block, running in a Kurt Busch, who then gets into his teammate. A horrible weekend in the end for 2311. They had both of them had great race cars. Bubba was up there a lot. Truex was trying to trail break and didn't take into account he had 4 other cars behind, a whole row behind him, while the Hendrick guys are doing their crap with swap getting in front of each other, which led to the chain reaction deal. But if you ask LCD NASCAR fans, they blamed that on Bubba. They were happy he hit the wall and he was, out of breath, which is part of why, like the man baby who's buying Twitter, that's the kind of people that
Oh,
they are.
Elon.
And
Oh, that's great. I love it.
yeah, well,
Yeah. No, but anyways,
LCD things. I mean, I don't know. It just bothers me with and they'll the white trash will justify it as like, oh, he's a cocky guy and he's never done nothing and he's brought it up on himself and all this stuff. I'm like, no. NASCAR used him as a freaking scapegoat for not wanting to have anything to do with the Confederate flag. NASCAR is the one that jumped and made a big deal and freaked out about the pull down in the garage area. He wasn't the one, but he hasn't helped himself. I'll completely say that when it comes to Bubba. But at the end of the day, there's very few people in this sport that actually have a personality. There's very few people in this sport that actually are trying to actually move this thing. He's one of the only people that's trying to move this thing forward, no matter what you want to think about him. And frankly, when you look at who is coming to work with him relative to other drivers, you got championship level drivers that are struggling to find sponsors. Bubba Wallace, God love him, middle of the road at best driver. You've got Fortune 500 companies in McDonald's, Columbia,
DoorDash.
freaking Money Lion, whatever. How many of these sponsors were there before he showed up? The petty team, that whatever the hell petty team was before Maury Gallagher just bought him out, was kept afloat because of the sponsors that Bubba brought to the sport. So you may need, I mean, most people that would not like him are not going to listen to the show. So it is what it is. There are going to be people that listen to the show that don't like him in general, but you need this education. The guy brings sponsors in. The guy is actually trying to make something happen here. Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin wouldn't just have him as a token guy, even if people want to believe it. I don't think Denny Hamlin wants to be wasting his own money if he didn't think the guy had some semblance of talent. And he knows the guy from earlier, many years ago at Gibbs. So he has some understanding of what Bubba brings to the table. The other thing, though, is there's also team stuff going on that we have to look into. Inter-team stuff when it comes to the crew chief. His pit crew is absolutely one of the worst pit crews in the whole sport. It reminds me of like Tony's pit crew back in the day about how bad they were. His pit crew sucks. And the reality that they haven't left a wheel loose like the 78 did yesterday. And I don't know, like colleagues teams have had quite a year in regards to doing fucked up shit and getting penalized and having to do pit road penalties. The Maggot car had to do the pass-through penalty with Landon Castle yesterday, and he still got a top 20 because, that's how things are. But I'm going off on a thing because Bubba had a car that could have won.
He could have won, yeah.
Kurt Busch also did, yeah, and it's just, and the sad thing is there's very few opportunities, whether it's his talent, whether it's the way they're doing things, they don't maximize their situation. Kurt Busch has been able to maximize it, but the reality is the guy's got 20-something years in the Cup Series.
Yeah, but he's also been maximizing since 2013 when he was, or 2012.
Yeah, and when he went and tried to when he canceled himself in 2011, ever since then he's been a different guy. And then now he's got the smoking hot wife, so he gets to get laid all the time while they're using polo sticks on each other. So that's a whole other thing. Yeah, Tyler Reddick, after his last lap issue with Chase Briscoe at Bristol, blows up. The ECR engines were definitely not working too well. Daniel Hemrick blew up while in the middle of the pack, got hooked, came back up, slammed into Chase Briscoe, destroyed his car, and then Chris Buescher and Chase Briscoe. So two guys that could have possibly been in position to win. Buescher won. I think Buescher won the other duel, right, at Daytona.
He did, yeah.
Yeah,
He tagged Joe
both
Logano on the
Roush
last
cars.
lap.
Yeah, both Roush cars won the duels, and so then you're talking about the car that finished third in the Daytona 500 and a car that won a duel, and they were knocked out not even 60 laps into the race. That was pretty brutal. The 44 car coming through as usual, having a mechanical issue. Greg Biffle not really happy about it, but they've been consistent. You have some other people. Yeah, Logano that took out Ty Dillon, Harrison Burton. Suarez was taken out in a wreck. Richard, Cold Custard, who's had a nightmare year this year. Last year was nondescript anyway. The last couple of years have been nondescript, but it is Cole Custer. But now we're getting to a point where it's like, okay, the only reason you have a job is because your dad's best is the whatever, one of the big guys at the team, and he's Gene Haas's best friend. That's the only reason he has a job right now. You have Ryan Preece sitting around running modifieds and running here and there. You could put him in the car, and I bet you get better results. I'm not going to go to the Riley Herbst thing, but at the end of the day, he's got like Riley Herbst vibes going. Even though he's won Xfinity races, he was somewhat competitive. He won in trucks. He backdoored to win at Kentucky a couple of years ago and won Rookie of the Year. He hasn't been that good. And they'll say, well, Briscoe and him have the same number of wins, but at least Briscoe's running up front weekly. What the hell is Cole Custer doing? It's like once every 8 weeks, 10 weeks he shows up. It's a 36 race season. You show up once every 4 to 6 weeks. What the hell is the point of having you out there? It's a waste of time. I mean, it's $20 million. That's what that is. I mean, Gene Haas is wasting $25 million of his money to run 25th. I mean, that's what he did before Tony Stewart took the team over. But what the hell is the point? Yeah, Cody Ware's car got destroyed coming back. The McLeod's car, the wheel fell off. Brad Keselowski, my God, I don't know what has happened to him. He's getting ready for the Kentucky Derby, I guess, because he had a car that could have won this race maybe, but he couldn't help himself. He's just getting ready for the Kentucky Derby. Denny Hamlin got shuffled late and got into that last lap wreck, but he had a car to win. He ended up with his team cars there in the back. And that's, yeah, I mean, the racing, I mean, in the end was clean, and they were able to make it work. The tandem doesn't work to the same level as it used to, so you can't really separate, but it does have an ability to make things happen. You need to have help, and there was times where certain people were able to get help, but people wouldn't help. Like, for example, people won't help Briscoe. People won't help Bubba, even though Bubba had one of the fastest cars on the racetrack, which I think is idiotic. If you have that car is fast, at least push him there and then hang him out later. Give yourself the opportunity. But I don't think a lot of these drivers have any semblance of understanding of how to race on a plate track to the way that it used to be. And I think that's part of the reason why we have the product we have. But oh well, we'll go to Dover here next week. We might get a first time winner. We might end up getting a Hendrick car winning. Who knows? Speaking of Hendrick cars, and speaking of inbred dipshits, Noah Gragson got the victory at Talladega. You wouldn't have known that there were very many people in this race if you watched it on TV. I think you would have only known that Jeffrey Earnhardt was driving a 3-car and that Larry McReynolds was his crew chief. But Jeffrey Earnhardt qualified on pole. Jeffrey Earnhardt ran up front. Jeffrey Earnhardt had a chance to win. He made a move that his grandfather would have been proud of there late in the race, and he almost took the special plate, and I was yelling at the TV. I wanted him to hook Noah Gragson right into the grass and into the infield because that's where he was going to go anyway. And I'm like, oh, God dang it. He didn't have enough momentum. I wanted him to hook him in the wall. And that's sad, but I don't like Noah Gragson. I never will. He's a tool. His fan base is typical LCD. They're like, well, his dad's in jail. He doesn't sponsor him anymore. I'm like, but he's been in an XFinity car for like 3 years, and he's won 7 races. And he's in a car that every other driver that's driven before him won a championship and moved up. Yet he's been in this car for 3 years. You don't see the problem. He drove a Kyle Busch Motorsports truck for 1 year, had a illness at Pocono and had to miss a race. Made the Final Four, couldn't close. He's made the Final Four twice, couldn't close. Newsflash, the guy is not as good as you make him out to be. He's a goofy guy. He's got the puffy thing because he does coke. Whatever, like people like him because he's whatever. He's a dopey guy. He's a middle of the road talent that's driving in top flight equipment. He's an asshole. He's a pervert. He's basically a guy who's getting ready to get arrested. Why the fuck do people like this guy? I don't get it, but fuck him. He won another race. He'll go and figure out a way to choke it when it counts in the playoffs. Noah Gragson wins. Jeffrey Earnhardt second. AJ Allmendinger still waiting for a super speedway win. That's basically the only thing he's missing now in his resume on the Xfinity side. Ryan Sieg, Landon Castle trying to get his first career win. So at a track where Kaulig has done really well, they get 2 in the top 5, but they really weren't up there.
Nope.
Alfredo, Herbst, Joe Graff Jr., Christ almighty. Myatt Snyder and Brett Moffitt. So then you have 2 of the hour cars, and then the what's it called? Why am I forgetting the other? Jeb Burton was 15th, but Jeb Burton was pushing the 3-car a lot. And Jeb Burton announced today he's going to be running a throwback to his dad's first career win at Darlington here next couple of weeks. So that'll be pretty cool. Part of the reason why he's running the number 27. He'll be running a throwback to his dad, the great Ward Burton. The reality of it is there's different drivers. I think Allmendinger had a shot there. The most dominant car, of course, was Austin Hill before he got destroyed by Sam Mayer. There was other people that were up there during the day. Allgaier had engine problems. Those are the 2. The big leader was Austin Hill. Then you had Jeffrey Earnhardt, Allgaier, who led double-digit laps. A bunch of people who led, but Gragson gets the win. Earnhardt was the story, though. Probably I could count on one hand the number of times he's driven a competitive race car in any series. in NASCAR. That's probably the fifth time he's been in a competitive race car. I don't know how many race. Maybe it's more because he was in a Gibbs car for
Yeah,
a
he
few
ran like
races.
7 races or so, like 2 or 3 years ago in a Gibbs car, and then I think like one of his first Xfinity starts was in a junior
Was
motorsports
with
car
Junior
at
in
Richmond.
12 or 13. Yeah, it was that this, and then I don't know how many because whatever his sponsor was, the sponsor pulled a plug on him and then stuck with the Gibbs team and sponsored Kyle Busch and everybody
Yeah,
else.
but then that sponsor like ran out of business, I think, or
Ran out of
something.
business too. Yeah, so it was funny. They screwed him over, but in the end, he got the ability to run a few races. The fact is, I was rooting for him so bad because I knew what that would have meant for him. I know that conjecture and the media and how they would have presented it in certain ways would have been bad, but I was rooting for him as understanding what he's gone through in his career, generally speaking, what his talent is. That would have been life changing for him. The emotion he had just finishing second in Xfinity race, could you like Larry McReynolds probably would have dropped dead. That would have been ridiculous. But his head would have been redder than like I don't know like he would have been as beat red as a freaking Alabama crimson. He would have been crimson like the Alabama Crimson. He'd have been crying, shitting, pissing himself. It would have been something. It would have been him and Jeffrey Earnhardt. That would have been something. Carrie and his mom and would have been freaking out. It would have been a big deal, and it would have been a lot better than what the result was. Um, the fact is, Fox was trying to manifest it, but they failed. Like they do usually. They were trying to manifest it, but it almost happened. They had Austin Dillon up there too. You had I forget who the hell else they had. They had Kurt Busch up there, but yeah, they had Austin Dillon up there. They were trying to manifest it, but
Oh yeah.
yeah, well, one of these days it might happen again. Maybe we'll see him at Daytona or something. Maybe Atlanta, something like that.
Yeah, I could count on that, but we'll see what happens there. But yeah, I mean, the story of the day was Jeffrey Earnhardt, and yeah, I mean, probably had the convenient restrictor plate like they usually do for this type of race for that car. It fits and everything, and I mean, yeah, it was looked like Earnhardt coming down to win 2000. Looked like Dale Jr. Going from like 10th to second on the final lap of the 2010 Daytona 500 there. That's what it looked like. Yeah, the Bass Pro car won that race. The Bass Pro car won this race, so it kind of fits, I guess. But yeah, he was making a lot of moves like last lap, like Dale Earnhardt and Dale Jr. would have made. So credit to him for at least being in a good car to be able to do it there. So that was a story. Junior Motorsports, both Noah Gragson was up there, and when it mattered, Josh Berry led a couple of laps. Um, Just Nagar probably could have won that race too, but then they ran out of gas on the last lap or the last restart, and I thought that they would have had another caution, but he was able to pull over off the racetrack. I don't know where he ended up, but he was able to make it off
I
the
think he was
racetrack.
at the front of pit road.
Yeah,
I think they'd had so many damn cautions. They were like, all right, if he can
yeah,
pull his
whatever.
car off, just call it a day.
Yeah, so they did that. Sam Mayer was pretty good too. Then he got wrecked late. Um, so all four of them, they did fairly well, and then they had one of them win. So they were able to win the race, and Noah Gragson gets his second win. I mean, you saw AJ Allmendinger and Landon Castle, the colleague cars. They weren't up there really. I mean, they were in the top 10. They were up there when it mattered, but it's not like it used to be for colleague racing. It seems like maybe they've lost a little bit their advantage, or everybody else has started. Like I've talked about before, they started to figure out their game, and they're all teaming up with each other. I mean, you saw it with RCR, the 21 who crashed, Austin Hill. The two also crashed, uh, and then of course the three car. So they've kind of figured it out for this race, and it seems like that's in. Junior Motorsports also figured it out. So it seems like that's the way. That's the name of the game, at least in Xfinity, and I think in Cup too, is this manufacturer teaming up together, or team cars teaming up together. So it is almost kind of like the past, though. I feel like 20 years ago, the at the racetrack, like you had the DEI cars that teamed up together. I think Hendrick teamed up together.
Yeah.
Joe Gibbs teaming up together. So it's kind of going back to that direction, after a few years of it kind of being all individualized and everything. So kind of in that nature. But yeah, this race seemed like there was a lot of more wrecks in this race than there were in the Cup Series. Um, you had 25 lead changes, and then you had 10 cautions, and especially in like the last part of that race, it seemed like there was just last 20 laps or so, you had half the cautions almost. So a lot of crashing that they took place. So it was definitely um, slow ending, I guess, because like you get to the end of this race and think, oh, okay, well they have 20 laps, they'll be over in 20 minutes or so, and then they start crashing and everything, and then it draws out to like another hour and a half to finish the last 20 laps. It feels like so. A lot of these races, it takes too long to finish because they keep crashing, and that's how it is at Talladega. But I guess we expect it to be like that because that's how they race. But um, the racing, overall pretty solid. Kind of like the Cup race. A lot of action that took place for sure. But this was definitely a exciting race to watch. Especially if you're an Earnhardt fan, and if you're old school and you wanted to see that number 3 car win in Talladega once again.
I wanted to see that win in so many ways. The uniform, they did a great job with the uniform too, making it look like Dale Senior's old or GM Goodwrench with the lettering, the vibes were there. They gave him the special plate. He qualifies on pole. His teammate dominates the race. Nobody wanted to work with Jeffrey, but he probably had the fastest car in the whole entire place. And if he would been able to get with that 21 car, I think it would have been between the two of them. The 21 car, of course, got wrecked, but Austin Hill has really, in his case, he's won at Daytona. He's set. Um, he's in a situation right now where it's not that big of a deal. He wanted the win, I'm sure, but the way the points are right now. There's what is it, 4 or 5 winners, so he's gonna get in the playoffs. It's no problem. In regards to playoff points right now, there's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 that have playoff points. So Hemrick, I mean, the points right now it's kind of crazy. I mean, there's 3 cars. It's Allmendinger has a 40-point lead on Gragson, and Gibbs is third, 45 points back. Right now, the playoff points have Gibbs in first with Gragson second and Allmendinger third. Then you have a big gap. Josh Berry's kind of in his own world. Brandon Jones is in fifth. Allgaier, Ryan Sieg, and Sam Mayer are only separated by about 8 points. Austin Hill is in ninth. Riley Herbst 10th. Landon Castle 11th. Daniel Hemrick is on the cutoff, defending series champion. So all 3 Kaulig cars, what is it? All 4 Junior Motorsports cars. Yeah, all 4. Yeah, the 9, the 8, the 7, and the 1. Yeah. Then you have all 3 Kaulig, all 4 RCR, or all 3 Junior Motorsports, the 2 Joe Gibbs full-time cars. So 3, 4, 9. And then you have Ryan Sieg, Riley Herbst, and who am I forgetting there? And Austin Hill. Those are the other 3. But then you have You have Anthony Alfredo and Sheldon Creed, Brandon Brown, Jeb Burton, and Brett Moffitt. Those are all cars that have run every race. You also have to give consideration to Myatt Snyder and Clements. Those are other people. But really, right now, points-wise, Anthony Alfredo is 10 points out of the cutoff right now. And that would be interesting if that team could get in. Sheldon Creed needs a win. That's the same thing for Brandon Brown. So basically, he's waiting for Daytona now to get in. Jeb Burton, Our Motorsports, they're all looking for a win right now. Points are not in their favor, but they might have a chance. Road courses might go in the favor of Moffitt. Alfredo and Burton need more short tracks, but it's something to see. Right now we kind of have our 12. It's something it speaks to the Xfinity Series probably needs to have 10. Trucks need to have 8. Cup needs to have 12. We've said this on this show before. I think I've said it on other shows like Talking in Circles. There's too many teams that make the playoffs. You need to make it a little bit more about being a playoff and not just bringing everybody. The problem with sports now is we're just giving way too many teams the opportunity to make it, even if you're not really that good. And when you look at some of the drivers that are right now in there, and we're talking about somebody who I like in Daniel Hemrick, he really hasn't done shit this year. He does more in a cup car in his limited starts for Colleague than he does in the Xfinity car, and he's the defending Xfinity champion. That's kind of weird to me, but I think it speaks to what his driving style is and what he's about. He's more suited to the cup car than he is to Xfinity. Hopefully, Colleague sees that and says, okay, fine, we'll give you that cup ride instead of Noah Gragson, which I'm afraid they're going to give him that ride, which he'll just destroy race cars every single week like he does in general. The fact he actually came back with a clean race car for Beard, I might be the first time he's done that since he drove for them. So, whatever. And he made up a blueberry, whatever. What the hell do they have? The blueberry frosty. So they should name it the Stoner Frosty or the Cocaine Frosty because that's for him. But he shoved it up Jamie Little's ass, so that must have been fun.
Yeah, MW55 definitely got a lot of that action too.
Oh yeah, no, that's you know what? That's true because MW55s. Yeah, that's true. Him and Noah Gragson on the boulevard. That was probably interesting, and Bob Pockris was not there, thankfully,
Well, he
to
was
see
there on
all
the
that.
boulevard, but he was.
But I don't think it was on the same day. I think it was on Friday. He did the
I don't know.
boulevard, or was it Saturday? I think he did it on Friday night. He went on the boulevard, which is outstanding. Pockris is trying to get rid of the way that he used to be. I saw him in the press room at Pocono, and he looked like a real dweeb. He's trying to get rid of that whole thing. He's letting his hair down, what little hair he has left, and throwing it down. So God bless him. They're trying to humanize the media in this day and age, considering how bad things are for media in the world. Speaking of media in the world and how things are, we're going to go to the Parmigiano Reggiano Grand Prix where Karen Horner got to stick his thing in a vacuum cleaner and blow a load after his butt buddy Fish Lips basically had a perfect weekend, qualified on pole, won the sprint, won the race, cut the points lead down pretty handily. They came into the race, I think it was 46 points behind Charles Leclerc. Only made up a point in the sprint race, but in the end gained 18 points in the race itself. So now the gap that was 46 points is now 27, going to Miami. And the Miami parking lot race and around Hard Rock Stadium. That we'll preview on episode 112 of the GSP. But in regards to the Pasta Fazool Grand Prix, we had Max Verstappen lead every lap. Teammate Sergio Perez finishes second. The battle was really between Sergio Perez and Leclerc for that second spot. Leclerc wrecked trying to get it, and then had to come back after putting a wing on and doing repairs, came back to sixth. Lando Norris was the main beneficiary, because he got a podium. George Russell continues his consistency with, he's the only driver so far in the 2022 season to finish in top 5 in every race. And considering what he's driving, that's even more impressive. And he finished fourth. Valtteri Bottas gets a top 5 finish for Alfa Sauber, which is huge for them and their battle in the midfield. And when you consider the guy couldn't drive a hot nail through snow for the last couple of years in a Mercedes at times, he was able to pass people. It's good to see Valtteri Bottas doing well as the team leader there. Leclerc finished sixth. Yuki Tsunoda had a good weekend. Qualifying didn't go well, ran all right in the sprint, but made up a lot of places here in the race, finished seventh. Aston Martin, after a nightmare start to the season. Sebastian Vettel gets points, finishes eighth, and his teammate finished 10th. Kevin Magnussen salvages Haas's situation, last car in the lead lap in ninth. Alexander Albon had a chance to get points again for the second race in a row for Williams, but fell just short while his teammate was non-existent. We talk about Gasly had a horrible weekend. The Alpine team, terrible weekend for them. But, and then, of course, Daniel Ricciardo was collateral damage, or he was part of the issue for Carlos Sainz in that wreck there. And Carlos Sainz got an extension, but he crashed in qualifying, and then he made up for it in the sprint, and then first lap incident and knocked him out of the race. Alonso was a part of that deal. Side pod was destroyed, so I had to park him. Ricciardo finished last, behind Mick Schumacher, who spun out twice. One of his worst weekends in his career. But Lewis Hamilton, if you want to talk about worst weekends of his career, probably one of the worst weekends of his career, too. Finished 13th and was generally not a factor at all, while his teammate finished fourth. So multiple things to unpack there, Josh. Red Bull basically maximizing the points, taking advantage of Ferrari's mistakes, the drivers, and in general, the team. That was a big deal. Verstappen really trying to get his championship on track. He's won 2 races this year, just like Leclerc. But this race had a little bit more sauce for him in that he got those points from the sprint. And so he was what would have been, I think, a little bit less of a momentum shift based on the old sprint points. This is a huge momentum shift. He basically cut the lead in half in one weekend. In the span of 2 days, he went from 40 plus points out, 46 points out, to 28. It's basically half. You're going to a new racetrack next race in Miami, so it's open for everybody. Verstappen trying to go and make sure he can go and defend this title. The Constructors' Championship is 9 points as well between them and Ferrari. So all to play for now. Red Bull had a huge weekend this weekend at Imola at a track that, if you watch that race, you understand why they didn't race there for a long time. There really isn't anywhere to pass. It's a GT track. It's a touring car track. It's a lower formula track for open wheels. It's not a track for Formula One. It's really not good for racing, no matter how many different iterations of Formula One cars they do there. It hasn't been a good racetrack since they changed it post Senna's and Ratzenberger's untimely deaths. And even then, it wasn't a great racetrack either. It was literally, you'd go and have the same processional type racing then too. But Imola's not been a great racetrack ever. You could run fast speeds, but it was more known for huge crashes than it was for anything else. So beside the point. But yeah, Fish Lips gets another win there, Josh.
Yeah, I mean, there was really, not a whole lot that happened in this race. I mean, outside of lap one, Carlos Sainz getting taken out with Daniel Ricciardo, of course, not incidental or not intentional, just a racing incident there that happened. Unfortunate for Ferrari there, having to retire on the first lap or not even completing the first lap, right? And then later on, Leclerc spun out and cost himself a podium finish there. But other than that, there's a lot of issues throughout the field. They didn't have DRS for a large portion of the race, even though they had began to form a dry line. And remember talking or hearing that on the broadcast, they were talking about the lack of DRS availability after a certain amount of time in this race, and it was already wet. And then you said like the track's not really meant for Formula One cars and doesn't really do a good job of passing for Formula One cars. So there's that too. So yeah, I mean, of course, Lewis or Max Verstappen led all the race unchallenged and didn't have to really do anything. All he had to do was pass Leclerc in the sprint, and that was basically it for the race. And took off and led the whole thing. And then Sergio Perez able to take it home in second. So now Red Bull gets their first 1-2 finish since like 2016. So they managed to capitalize on everything. They maximized their points for their team, and now Verstappen has a chance now to sniff at Charles Leclerc. And I mean, for Ferrari, this could be. I mean, it's already had some bad finishes with Carlos Sainz, 2 races in a row where he retired early, but Charles Leclerc, I mean, we expected a lot out of him. He's been up front. He's finished either first or second so far until this race, and maybe this is the first crack in the season for Leclerc, the first mistake, and could lead to trouble for him or something. We see him get forced into other mistakes, trying to make up for this mistake as we progress the next couple of races, and could allow an opportunity for Max Verstappen to take the point lead, especially with Miami coming up, a new racetrack, Monaco coming up after that. So there's opportunity there for Max Verstappen. But I mean, like you said, not a whole lot of things that happened in this race. Lewis Hamilton, disappointing result, and he apologized to Toto, and then Toto apologized to him. So a lot of I'm sorry going around with Mercedes there, especially on car number 44. And it looked like he really struggled throughout the whole weekend. But I think there's a lot of times where he could have passed Pierre Gasly at least and try to make up spots and possibly finish in the top 10. But I mean, I feel like maybe the lack of DRS, especially because it looked like he had a fairly faster car than some of the guys in front of him, getting held up by Yuki Tsunoda for a good chunk of the middle portion of that race. I feel like maybe Lewis Hamilton could have made up spots there, but just didn't have the opportunity to. And I mean, even when he had the opportunity to pass, didn't have enough, especially with no DRS there for a good portion of that race. So ends up finishing 13th, a lap down. So a rare result for Lewis Hamilton. But this year they've been struggling, and I think Mercedes, they've been struggling as a whole as a team, and George Russell carrying the flag once again for Mercedes. And they talked about the porpoising issue with these cars, especially Mercedes. It looks like they've been struggling a whole lot with it too. And George Russell also commenting that the porpoising is, I guess, starting to hurt him physically, and it seemed like it was the worst at this racetrack so far. And he said he doesn't know how much longer he'd be able to take it, to be able to stand it. So I imagine if they're feeling it, from all the bouncing, imagine that a lot of these other cars teams are probably feeling the same thing. We saw it in the first race. When Charles Leclerc is winning the pole, you could see how hard his head was bouncing in the cockpit, and saw highlight Lewis Hamilton in this race while he was driving. You could see how hard his head was bouncing under braking into one of the corners. So, this is an issue, and they, like you talked about it earlier, like if they increase the ride height of the cars, it would fix everything. But of course, this is an issue that we've seen now with this ground effect car, because that's what this is. This is a ground effect car, and we haven't really seen that in the past. But that was probably because these cars weren't as technologically advanced as they are right now. So when you take all of that into account, it makes sense why these cars bouncing or porpoising so violently. When they get under braking, they lose downforce, and they suddenly regain downforce as they get into the corners. So it's not really a whole lot to talk about this race. Of course, you had McLaren, Lando Norris finally getting a podium, so good for that. And then on the other end, you have Ricardo, basically not having much to show for whatever effort they had in qualifying, and they took out Carlos Sainz and then sustained damage from that, and then ended up being in the back in that race for however many long rest of this race. So it was not a good weekend for Ricardo, and just unfortunate for Ferrari that they ended up taking this result at their home racetrack.
I mean, yeah, it's a home racetrack, Enzo Dino Ferrari, and Autodromo, whatever the fuck. But Charles Leclerc, he has, this is the chinks in the armor. We talked about it in Grid Talk. If you want to go and listen to another podcast, episode 190 of the Grid Talk podcast, I got called in to host that deal. We did a deep dive on the race itself, went through everybody really in that race. I didn't do driver of the day. I think I effed up with that. I effed up multiple things on that episode, which, when you listen to this show and the way I get at some points, par for the course. But I was called in last minute to do that. But Tom, Aaron, and Jawad did a great job breaking everything down. The McLarens had good pace. The Mercedes power unit doesn't look as bad when it comes to the McLarens and George Russell. And even Aston Martin got a double podium. Good Lord, if that happened. Double points for them. So the fact that Lewis was completely out of sorts and out to lunch the whole weekend, especially when you consider the conditions, the way the conditions were this weekend, it was prime for him to go and feast. Because the wet, dry, he has that ability that very few have ever had before him and after, and he had nothing, and it's not good. It brings pause, and it gives me concern. I mean, they've already thrown out that they're not competing for either championship, which is depressing, especially considering you got screwed out of the Drivers' Championship last year. But, I mean, even Karen Horner said he's an 8-time champion, which tells you all you need to know. The guy's like, oh, yeah, he's an 8-time champion. Yeah, he should have been. The Point is, you should be a 9-time champion if you're going to get 9 or a 10-time champion if you're going to get in a real talk, because he got screwed in 2007, got screwed in 2016, and got screwed last year. So that's 3 more. You'd have 10. You'd have probably quit. And then we'd have Bottas and George Russell, and George Russell would be bending Valtteri Bottas over the way that he's bending Lewis Hamilton over. And then you have 2 randoms at Alfa Romeo. But, yeah. Verstappen getting that win, dominating, doing what they have to do. I think the reliability issues for Red Bull isn't gonna change. You're gonna have the days like they had on Sunday where they go and dominate, but then there's gonna be days where he goes and falls out of the race. And that's going to be a problem, especially when they're having to change power units and they're going to have grid penalties and they're going to have to start tailback. But they'll be able to maneuver. They'll be able to pass compared to other cars. That's where the play is. That's where Ferrari has to go and maximize their situation, run away with the race, get maximum points, fastest lap, and make Max Verstappen have to drive to second, kind of like what he did at Russia last year, which was one of the drives of the season because it was a fortunate drive. He wasn't going to finish there, but with all the crap with Lando Norris and stuff like that, all the things that happened with the rain coming in, that probably was the drive that won him the championship. Wasn't any race that he won. Wasn't anything that he really did. Wasn't anything to do with Lewis. Him backdooring a second and Lewis winning, only losing 7 points there when he probably should have lost more. When at the end of the day, the points differential was like 5 or whatever the hell it ended up being last year. That was the race right there. And that's where you get into every point counts. We talked about it last year, or we talked about it on Grid Talk, where every point counts. And it was 8 points. And 7 points was the difference was 7 points, I think, or 1 point coming into the final race of the year. So, yeah. So, I mean, every point counts in Formula One. Giving up points like the way Ferrari did on Sunday is not acceptable if you're trying to win either championship. Leclerc made errors that are not good errors, as our new kettle's going off there on the side. The fact of the matter is he can't do that. Miami is an open contest, brand new racetrack. He needs to come back and reset the narrative because Spain is a great racetrack for Max Verstappen. That's where he won his first career race. That's a track that Red Bull, they've been great at. Monaco is a track where Red Bull's done really well. So if you get a little bit of momentum back in Miami, that sets the tone. Okay, fine. Go to Catalunya, where Ferrari had great pace during testing. And then, of course, Monaco, which, of course, Leclerc has never finished in the point. It's like some weird crap because he's a monegasque. So for him to go and be able to show up and try to win Monaco as a Monaco being from there, it would be huge. He qualified on pole, but he crashed the car and he couldn't even race last year. So maybe he'll qualify on pole and race. We'll see what happens with that, but we'll find out how that goes. Formula One, there's so many races to go this year. It's really hard to make any real takes that are crazy. Like I try to put out there when it comes to Lewis, is it the beginning of the end for him? I don't think it's the end. He has another year. Mercedes may start looking at their options for whether they're going to compete for this year or not. George Russell is showing that if they make this car better, he could be sneaky because he's used to driving shitty cars. So I think that's fundamentally part of the reason why he's been able to deal with a lot of this. But they need to make the car balanced. They need to make the car drive better. And then both of them would be driving well. And then all of a sudden, you might have a real battle with 3 teams in this. And then you add the likes of McLaren in there, occasionally with a little Alpine action going on. Might actually have some interesting races. I mean, fundamentally, it'll be Ferrari and Red Bull for most of the year. So it's something that we will see. Where you had something to add in there, man?
No, I mean, it's been a crazy, not really crazy year, but I think with Lewis Hamilton, I mean, I kind of agree with you, like you said there, and it's also just the fact that we're under new regulations, and I guess Mercedes, they haven't quite figured it out and everything. So we'll see how it goes by the summer break. I mean, that's a long time, but
Yeah.
by the summer break, we'll see how they are as a team, if they can start picking up their performance. But we'll see. We got new track coming next week or 2 weeks on Mother's Day in America, and they're coming down to my neck of the woods down in Florida. So should be exciting. I don't think I'll be in person to watch it, but because it was a lot of money for the tickets. But the exciting to see Formula One come out to Florida. So I'll be watching that one on TV.
Yeah, unless you want to go and work the grounds or something, you pay $1,000 to sit in the middle of nowhere on that crappy racetrack, which is something I was looking at. My buddy Keith, who wants to come on the show, he works at my former job. We were looking at tickets, and it's like, oh, it's $1,000 to sit at the marina or wherever that fake marina they're setting up at the back end of the circuit, or you're sitting in this little corner, little chicane area, which is in the middle of nowhere on that circuit, and then you don't see anything else. You'll see the cars for 5 seconds, and you have to pay $1,000 to sit there. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
It's
What
300
is the
just
point
for
of that?
general admission for practice on Friday. It's like $300, or I don't want to say $300, but they call it like the I forgot what it's called, like the general, not general admission. They call it the campus pass. That's what it's called, because I keep getting these emails from them, for the tickets, and they call it the F1 campus pass for the Miami Grand Prix, and I think it costs like $300, and that's just for. I think that might be for Sunday. I don't know. That can't be for Sunday, but I think
No.
Saturday and Friday. That's the ticket price, and that's just for general
Well,
admission, which literally you're just gonna be able to roam around and walk around. So you're paying $300 to walk around. I mean, shit, like the Indy cars. I forgot how much I paid for that, but I think that was maybe like $80 in St.
no,
Pete. Yeah,
that's
and I could walk around, and that was
there's
race
so
day.
many people. There's so many people that are realizing what the good thing is about Formula One expanding into the U.S. with all these races, with Las Vegas too, because we talked about that on Grid Talk too. Like Tom Downey, everything F1. He's gonna come to Coda, and I think he's going to Vegas too with his friend because they for like a bachelor party or a stag or whatever. But what's coming out of this is how good of a value IndyCar is, and how much people are going to be like, oh, we get to have this level of competition, a high quality product with so many drivers and so many people that can win, and we get to watch it, and we get to get little good access, not the whole way, not like NHRA, but you get really good access and whatever, and you get it at a good cost. Like the problem is they're not in the Northeast. That's one thing. They should be at Watkins Glen, New Hampshire, Pocono, Richmond, which is southeast theoretically or whatever. It's kind of borderline. If they were there, then you could really make something happen. Of course, they're in St. Pete. Um, I think Sebring, if they really wanted to get crazy, they could run Sebring, the short course. I think it would be really cool to watch Indy cars on the long course. But it shows where the disconnect exists. If you really want fans, Formula One, like Drive to Survive, you want real Formula One fans to show up, you need to make it cost effective. If you're not going to make it cost effective, people are still going to go to NASCAR races. I'm not going anymore. I don't have any desire to anymore for multiple reasons. But I have a desire to go to IndyCar races. I have a desire to go to IMSA races. I have a desire to go to virtually any other thing. I mean, even NHRA, because now, what is it? Kenny Koretsky's family bought Reading, the Maple Grove Raceway. So now I can only imagine that they're going to put more money into it and try to make that place better, which we'll talk about in the NHRA part. For the fact is, NHRA is about fans, albeit whatever their level may be, but they're about fans, and that's what you're supposed to do. Whatever this Miami, publicity stunt they're going to have, and then the Las Vegas publicity stunt they're going to have next year is not about fans. It's about PR and about big business. And I want them. I want to I hope the NFL has Sunday Night Football at Allegiant Stadium that day or something, so that it's like a complete clusterfuck to get in, and it would be hilarious.
Well,
That's what I want.
Sunday Night Football, guys, because I think they said for the Las Vegas race that's going to be on a Saturday night, so there wouldn't be any conflict.
It's a Saturday night. Oh,
Yeah.
I figured it was a Sunday night. I was trying to manifest like a total clusterfuck.
Yeah.
So
well, it's already going to be.
Okay.
It's already going to be a clusterfuck there, Charlie Foxtrot, whatever you want to call it. But I think they said it's going to be 10 p.m. local time. The start on a Saturday night. So that's at what 1 a.m. for America, East Coast. I mean, come on.
No. If it's 10 a.m. or 10 p.m. on the in cent, that's a cent. Is that are they a Pacific?
I think no, they're on Mountain.
They're Mountain time.
Yeah.
So that means it's 8 for us.
No, you're going the other way around. It's going to be later for us. If it's Mountain time 10 p.m., that means it's going to be 1 a.m. or 12 a.m.
No, it'll be 12 midnight for us.
Yeah.
Really?
I'm pretty sure. Maybe I have it the other way around.
Oh, God.
Maybe it's 7 p.m. local time.
Who knows?
But it's still going to be late for us, though.
We have a year and what is it? 7 months we have 19 months before the Las Vegas Grand Prix on the Strip or whatever. I think it's in October, November of 23. So if they're trying to schedule that that's the same way as they would schedule boxing, where the main event, but then the main events are always usually at 12 midnight East Coast time.
Yeah.
Which would be essentially 10 p.m. their time. So it'd be 12 midnight.
Yeah. But the point of all of this is saying is that COTA is affordable. We've talked about it before. It's affordable. Miami, probably not for the average race fan. And Las Vegas, probably not affordable too. But, that's how it is.
Yeah. That's why COTA, there's a thing, how Dale Jr. said on his show, people have to get to North Wilkesboro to prove that we need to keep it open. We need to go to COTA. I want to go to COTA in the worst way. I just need to hope this job is the one that I can actually get there. There's I want to go to COTA. I want to go to Watkins for the U.S. Grand Prix. I want to go to Watkins Glen for the 6 hours. I want to go to the Indianapolis 500. And then I think my racing life would be pretty good at that point, because COTA is one of the most best circuits in the world, period. It's one of only 2 or 3 tier 1 circuits in America. It's COTA, Indianapolis road course, and this Miami circuit. And then the Vegas circuit. So there'll be one of 4. The Vegas circuit's once a year. for like 3 days, 4 days. The Miami track's for 4 days. There's only 2 actual circuits that are tier 1. Support COTA. The fact of the matter is that and it's Austin, it's College Town. It's a beautiful track. It's a proper racetrack. I wish IndyCar ran there too. You would think that Penske Entertainment, that whole thing, would be really looking at making the schedule a really good, interesting schedule, starting at the end of February after NASCAR starts, end it just before football. You could have a really nice, tight schedule with a lot of the best circuits that exist in our country, and even in North in the Americas. Go to Hermanos Rodriguez, go to Montreal, go to Toronto. You could have a 20 race calendar. I mean, the money probably wouldn't work, but you could have a 20 race calendar with a lot of great racetracks, and you could have everything: ovals, short ovals, big ovals, road courses, etc. But that's beside the point. We'll get to the roundup here, a very busy roundup to start this deal. Let me go. Yeah. Fabio Quartararo gets his first win of 2022, and in his defense of his world championship at the Algarve, won by 5.4 seconds over Johan Zarco. Alex Espargaro finished third, Alex Rins fourth, Miguel Oliveira fifth. Marc Marquez beats his brother Alex for sixth. Pecco Bagnaia eighth. Pol Espargaro ninth, and Maverick Vinales 10th. In regards to the points leading into this weekend's race at Jerez, Quartararo is tied with Alex Rins, but he takes the lead because he has a first and a second over Alex Rins' second and a third. Alex Espargaro is third. Enea Bastianini crashed out of the race, which is why he is dropped from first to fourth. He has 2 wins and 2 other point-scoring positions, but he is now 8 points behind. Johan Zarco is fifth in the standings with a second and a third place finish and 1 non-point scoring. Joan Mir, former world champion, crashed out, finished, and he's sixth right now. Binder 7th, he crashed. Miguel Oliveira has a win and fifth there this past weekend, but otherwise not much to show for the year. Jack Miller, who's in discussions, looks like he's not going to have his ride at Ducati, the factory effort. He might go to the Pramac team, or he may end up going to LCR Honda. Right now he's ninth. Pecco Bagnaia is having a nightmare season. He's only 10th. Right now he is 38 points out of the lead. He's tied with his teammate along with Marc Marquez. So 3 guys at 31 points, Pol Espargaro with 30 points. The 2 Honda riders not really doing much of anything. In regards to MotoGP, getting into the Moto2 standings, getting into this next race. Joe Roberts won. That didn't show up. Yeah, so the Moto2 race at the Algarve, Joe Roberts gets the win over Celestino Vietti, who is the points leader. Jorge Navarro is third, Marcel Schroeder fourth, and Manuel Gonzalez fifth. Go and look down through the rest of this field. Sean Dillon Kelly finished 13th, so he got points. The rest of a lot of the riders did not start, including Cameron Beaubier. So that's something. They don't show anything in the. They're talking about. They don't have anything about the race at the Algarve, and this is on the motorsport.com website. So that's why I was surprised that Joe Roberts won the race. But Joe Roberts, with his win, now has launched himself up into fourth in points. He's only 7 points behind Ayagura for second, and Celestino Vietti. For every race he has scored, every race he's finished, he's either finished first or second. So he's got a huge points lead right now. Ayagura, Tony Arbolino, and Joe Roberts are in a battle along with Aaron Canet for 7 points separate second to fifth. Chantra, who won Mandalika, he finished second the race after that, and otherwise that's it. He hasn't done much anything. Get through the rest of that. Bobier's 18th in points. Sean Dillon Kelly got his first points of the year. He's 25th. So he's off. He broke his duck there at the Algarve. F2 and F3, get into that for this this weekend. What's it called? Trying to say Logan Sargent. Logan Sargent qualified on pole for the first race. He qualified on pole over. I don't know, how does that work? Marcus Armstrong was faster than him, and then the Jehan Daruvula. Okay, I don't know how that works, but they must have done a swap or something. Yeah. So in the first race and F2, Marcus Armstrong won over Jehan Daruvula and Dennis Hauger. Roy Nissany fourth, Felipe Drogovic, the points leader, fifth, and Logan Sargent sixth after he qualified on pole. Dennis Hauger got the fastest lap point as well. Teo Pocher, Liam Lawson, the points finishers in the first race at Imola. Amory Cordial has acquired enough penalty points, but they didn't say anything in regards to that. He's like the new what is his name? What the hell? Lord Mahavir. He's the new Lord Mahavir in Formula 2 with his lack of ability. Bringing up race 2 in Formula 2, Teo Pocher wins over Enzo Fittipaldi and Ralph Boschung. Clement Novalak finished fourth. Iwasa fifth. Vesti sixth. Logan Sargent seventh. Beckman, Daruvula, and Drogovic round out your top 10. And then looking at some of the people that are competing for points here, Hauger doesn't even make the start. Yuri Vips is out after 5 laps. Roy Nissany, Liam Lawson, Cordial finished dead last, of course. In regards to the standings there, Teo Pocher is leading the points by 4 over Drogovic now. And Jehan Daruvula is in third, Liam Lawson fourth. Right now the battle is really Pocher, Drogovic. Drogovic has It's 4 points between the two of them. Pocher didn't score any points in Saudi. So that's something. And so but Daruvula, Lawson, you have a big, from third to eighth is only 6 points. Daruvula, Lawson, Verschoor, Beauchamp, Vips, and Marcus Armstrong. Logan Sargent right now is 11th in points, tied with Enzo Fittipaldi. That's something we'll look at when you also consider how bad Nicholas Latifi is. If Logan Sargent can actually put something together, he might be able to get into Formula One next year. Something to see. The results of Formula 3 in Race 1, Franco Colapinto wins the race over Victor Martins. American Jack Crawford, Red Bull driver, finishes third. Roman Stanek, Isaac Hajdar, top 5. Kalen Frederick, another American, gets points along with Smolier and Vilgamez. Yeah, I'm trying to go through. Hunter Yaney finished 17th. Kushmaini got penalized for not starting properly and ended up buried in 20th. So that sucked for him. Roman Stanek won the second race. Jack Crawford gets a second. So good weekend for him. Hajdar rounds out the podium. Oliver Bierman, Artur Leclerc makes it 3 Prema cars in the top 5. Kushmaini gets a 6th. Kalen Frederick gets an 8th. So a couple of the American drivers have a good weekend here this weekend. Hunter Yaney finished 17th there in that second race. And standings-wise, Victor Martins is tied with Artur Leclerc for the points lead. Then Roman Stanek is third. Hajdar, Crawford, there's 2 points between first and fifth. Bierman sixth. Juan Manuel Correa, who didn't even race in Imola for whatever reason, is still ninth. Kalen Frederick is 12th. Kushmaini 14th. Trying to go through the rest of Hunter Yaney. Is 25th, has no points. There's a bunch of drivers that don't have any points going into the next round, which will be in Spain a few weeks' time. World Superbikes. The results of the race at Assen, the second race of the year. In race 1, Johnny Ray over Bautista and Toprak, the defending world champion. Locatelli, Andrea Locatelli, Iker Lecuona, your top 5. Loris Baz, Otil, Garrett Gerloff finished 8th. Redding, Axel Bassani, Javi Vieje, former Moto2 champion there. I'll look through some of these other people. Yeah, who cares? Super Pole race, Johnny Ray over Toprak and Alvaro Bautista. Andrea Locatelli, Iker Lecuona for Honda. Gerloff was 7th. In race 2, Alvaro Bautista gets a double over Locatelli, Iker Lecuona, Lowe's, Redding. Garrett Gerloff retired from the race. Toprak had an accident with Johnny Ray. Okay. It's a way to make the standings a little more interesting. Bautista is now leading the points by 18 over Johnny Ray. Toprak is in third, giving up a lot of ground right now. Locatelli, Lackawanna, they're within 9 points of each other, third to fifth. Michael Rubenaldi is sixth. Garrett Gerloff is 11th in points going into the next round, which will be in the Algarve here coming up in a few weeks' time. It'll be in Estoril, actually, on May 20th through 22nd. So it'll be a few weeks' time before we get the World Superbikes coming back. Rally Croatia is, we see Rally Croatia saw Kalle Rovanperä win by, what is it? How many? Like to see where. No, so that's what it is. So Kalle Rovanperä won by 4.3 seconds over Ott Tanak, and Thierry Neuville was what is it? I don't see how that is. 16.7 seconds, or I don't know, 2 hours and 21. That can't be. Or 2 minutes and 21 seconds. Yeah, it can be 2 hours. 2 minutes and 21 seconds back in third. Craig Breen fourth. Efren Evans in fifth. Katsuya sixth. And then I'm trying to look at some of the other people there. Sean Johnston, American driver, finished 19th. Okay, yeah, Oliver Solberg got knocked out in an accident in stage 9. So Toyota wins over Hyundai, 2 Hyundais. The first Ford was fourth. Toyota then takes up 2 more spots in the 5th and 6th. The Rally 2 winner finished 7th. Citroen and then 4 Skodas. Stefan Lefebvre. Why does that name seem familiar? So that was Rally Croatia, the standings. Rovanperä has 2 wins on the trot. They're 29 points out of Thierry Neuville, former world champion. Craig Breen third. Sebastian Loeb won the first race of the year, and he'll be back at Rally Portugal for Ford, so that'll be interesting to see what he can do. 9-time world champion, World Rally there. Moto America was at Road Atlanta this past weekend. Have to go and bring that up. America.
I just sent you the results there.
Okay. And thank you for that. Yeah. So okay. The results for the Moto America Superbikes. I don't know why calendar. Details. Bring that up. You can go through that. Nice website. I gotta say, for Moto America and the great legendary Wayne Rainey, it's a good website. A lot of good information.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a flashy website, but at least the information there is pretty accessible, like other websites, like IMSA later on.
Oh yeah, and we're going on for a while, and it's my fault because trying to keep track of all of this. I mean, I all I want to do is just give you the race results and trying to go and oh, there you go. That's I just the eureka moment just took place. Moto America's Superbikes, the race one results. Fast while they go and break it down, starting grid results. Danilo Petrucci won the first race at Road Atlanta over Matthew Schultz. Jake Lewis was third. Hector Barbera fourth. Richie Escalante fifth. Kyle Wyman, who gets to go and make love to Hannah Lopa for the rest of his life. So God bless him. Corey Alexander seventh. Hayden Gillum eighth. Ashton Yates riding in BMW, and the son of Aaron Yates, former rider for Team 23 in Superbikes back in the day. Then Travis Wyman make up the top 10. Ezra Bobier, the little brother of Cameron Bobier, finished 12th. Then you have team riders that weren't classified. That includes the defending champion Jake Gagne and his teammate Cameron Peterson. So both Yamahas fell out of the race, which is pretty bad. In regards to race 2, it went much different. The results saw Jake Gagne go and get a win over his teammate Cameron Peterson, and then Kyle Wyman get on the podium. Hector Barbera and Richie Escalante round out the top 5. Corey Alexander, Ashton Yates, Travis Wyman, David Anthony, Jeff May make up your top 10. Matthew Schultz DNF'd along with Jake Lewis, Hayden Gillum, Ezra Bobier, but then Danilo Petrucci blew up on the first lap. So the first real blip in the season for the former MotoGP rider Danilo Petrucci happened this weekend at Road Atlanta. But you know, considering how many points he had, the points he has, what he's done so far, it's not that big of a deal. Petrucci is still got a 15-point lead on Matthew Schultz. Cameron Peterson is third. Barbera fourth. Richie Escalante fifth. Jake Gagne needed that win. He is right now 34 points out of the lead, and it's close from Barbera to Jake Lewis in seventh is only 10 points. So it's still a lot to ride for here. Many races to go as we go along. They had Texas. What is it at? Oh, at Coda, yeah. And then Road Atlanta. Yeah, Danilo Petrucci got the double. He'd won the first 3 races, and then he blew up in the 4th race. Matthew Schultz finished second in the first 3 races, and then fell out of the 4th race. Cameron Peterson finished 3rd. The first race at Coda, I think finished 4th. In the 2nd race, fell out, and then finished 2nd in the 2nd race at Road Atlanta. Gagne had third, yeah, that's 4th, yeah. So, or I guess that's a 3rd actually. And then Jake Gagne had a 3rd in the 2nd race at Coda, and then he has a win here in the 2nd race at Road Atlanta. That's his points haul so far this season. A lot to go on here. They'll be racing at VIR here in the next few weeks. Then Road America, the Ridge in Pittsburgh. They'll be racing at Laguna Seca. The old Brainerd International Raceway. The Ridge, I forget. The Ridge is. Then you have Jersey and Alabama. Getting into got Moto America, British touring cars at Donington Park. Raced there last weekend. The results of the first race of the year at Donington Park saw Tom Ingram win race 1 over Colin Turkington, Jake Hill, Gordon Shennon, Ashley Sutton. In the top 5, race 2, Gordon Shedden, Tom Ingram, George Gamble, Adam Morgan, and Josh Cook. Ash Sutton was 6th. And then in race 3, Jake Hill, Ash Sutton, Josh Cook, Daniel Lloyd, Tom Ingram. The points as they go to Brands Hatch Indy here in a few weeks' time. Tom Ingram has a 6-point lead on Jake Hill, 8 points on the former multiple-time British Touring Car champion Gordon Shedden in 3rd, Ash Sutton 4th, Josh Cook 5th, tied with Adam Morgan. So that's what we'll look at as we go on early in this season. Jason Plato, multiple British Touring Car champion, is in 15th. Tom Chilton is in 16th. A lot of guys. Nicholas Hamilton, of course, the little brother of Lewis Hamilton, is racing in the British Touring Cars. Ollie Jackson, a bunch of people that didn't. 19 guys scored points so far to start the year amongst the 3 races, but then you still have 9 guys that haven't scored. So we'll see what happens at Brands Hatch Indy. NHRA raced at Houston Raceway Park for the last time, which saw Camry Caruso qualified on pole in Pro Stock, but didn't have the fortune to come through in the race. Another woman, Eric Enders, did at home. It's a home game for her. Goes and throws the first pitch at the Assholes game, since she's an asshole too. And then she goes and wins a race. Steve Johnson won in Pro Stock Motorcycle, first win of the year for him. Matt Hagan for Tony Stewart Racing gets his second win of the year. And Brittany Force gets her second win of the year in Top Fuel in the Monster Energy Flavor Pack. John Force Racing Top Fuel dragster, trying to get that second championship after a few years here. That would be something. Also bring it up. And then they're going to be racing this weekend at Charlotte for the Charlotte 4-wide. So that'll be, and then after this weekend's race, there'll be some gaps. There'll be a couple of weeks still for Richmond. Then a couple of weeks after that will be New Hampshire. There'll be 2-week breaks between races. So they have the back-to-back Houston and then Charlotte 4-wide. And then the schedule kind of spreads out a little bit. They'll have another back-to-back Bristol and Norwalk before the Western Swing. Trying to bring up the results here at the Spring Nationals. Yeah, Brittany Force, Matt Hagan, Eric Enders, Steve Johnson, Joey Severance won Top Alcohol Dragster, Doug Gordon won Top Alcohol Funny Car. Justin Ashley lost to Brittany Force in Top Fuel. And Matt Hagan beat Bobby Bodie for the win there. And Eric Enders beats Camry Caruso in Pro Stock for that win. And Steve Johnson beats Matt Smith, who's riding a Suzuki now. He brought his wheel, he'd heard of Suzuki. Oh, okay. That's interesting. So Matt Smith, who had switched to Suzuki, defending champion, had hurt the motor and had to bring out his Buell to try and win. He ran 200 miles an hour in that run. Had those whole shot, but didn't have the pace elapsed time-wise to be able to hold up against Steve Johnson, the former two-time winner of the U.S. Nationals there. Steve Johnson, who's never won a championship, has been close. He got close last year. So there is that. IMSA will be at Laguna Seca this weekend for the first sprint race of the year. The first 2 hour, 40-minute race, I mean. And then we go and bring all that up. The entry list for the Hyundai Monterey Sports Car Championship sees 6 DPIs, 6 LMP2s, and then 20 GTD cars, 6 in the Pro category and 14 in the GTD class. What is it? 2 Acuras versus 4 Cadillacs. Their last race winner was Renger van der Zandt and Sebastian Bourdais. Winners of the 12 Hours of Sebring was Earl Bamber and Alex Lynn. So the 2 Ganassi Cadillac cars up there. Tristan Vautier, Richard Westbrook for JDC Miller. Ricky Taylor, Philippe Albuquerque for Konica Minolta Acura. Trying to get momentum here. Tough start to the year for them. Pippo Durrani, Tristan Nunez, Whalen Engineering, Cadillac defending champions, wanting to go and get themselves on the board. And then the Rolex 24 winners, Oliver Jarvis, Tom Blomqvist, Meyer Shank Racing, AutoNation, Acura. The Dragon Speed 81 will have Henrik Henman and Juan Pablo Montoya. He's doing his prep before he gets to Indianapolis because he's going to be driving for McLaren there in the 3rd car. Then you have 6 part of the LMP2 category there. John Ferrano, Louis Delatraz, Steve for Tower Motorsport. Pierre-One Matheson has 2 cars, 11 with Stephen Thomas, Jonathan Bomarito. And then the 52, Josh Pearson, Patrick Kelly. Dwight Merriman, Ryan DL for Aero Motorsport. And then the high-class racing, number 20, Dennis Anderson, Anders Forbach. GTD Bro has 1 Chevy, 1 Porsche with Pfaff Motorsports, the Corvette, Garcia and Jordan Taylor, the Vassar Sullivan Lexus with Hawksworth and Barnacote, Harder Racing, Aston with Roscoe and Alex Riberas, the 1 BMW with Connor DeFilippi and John Edwards, and then the Cooper McNeil, Daniel Yucandela Mercedes for WeatherTech Racing. And then the GTD category itself. Ryan Eversley and Aiden Reed will be running the Acura for Rick Ware. The usual suspects, Paul Miller's BMW, Brian Sellers, Madison Snow, Montecalvo and Teelitz for Lexus, Hardwick and Halen for Wright, Roman DeAngelis, Maxim Martin for Aston Martin, the Hard Racing, Allegra Motorsports, Michael D. Casada and Daniel Morad and Mercedes, Mike Skeen, Stephen McAleer, the Korthoff Mercedes, Kyle Washington, James Safronis for GMG. Of course, it's a California race, so James Safronis is going to be there. 2 bronze drivers, so we'll see if they can get a result out of it. McGuinness Westphal Carbon Lamborghini, Marco Holzer, Jaden Conwright, NTE SSR Lamborghini, Russell Ward, Philip Ellis, the Windward Racing Mercedes, Brendan Uribe, Frederick Shandorf, Inception McLaren, Robbie Foley, Bill Oberlin, Eternal Motorsports, BMW, and Rob Furiel, Kathleen Legg, Hardpoint Porsche. Not making any picks because I've got way more to do. Supercars at Barbagallo, Wanneroo Raceway. Going into this weekend's race, it's been basically a Shane Van Gisbergen benefit so far. He's got 118-point lead on Anton De Pasquale. Chaz Mostert's third, Will Davison's fourth, and Brock Feeney is fifth. So we'll see what happens with that. Brock Feeney, of course, is the teammate that took over for Jamie Winchcup in the second car, the 88 car. So that's something to look at in regards to that team, the Red Bull team or Triple Eight team, how that'll work out. After that, they'll go to Winton, then Darwin. We'll see what the Supercars series can go and do. If a shorter track will be able to give opportunity to the Ford teams, but I doubt it really will make much of a difference. Formula E, they announced that Vancouver's round has been postponed until 2023, so that's a bummer. The standings going into this weekend's Monaco E-Prix sees Jean-Eric Verne up by 2 points on Robin Freins. Neither of them have won a race. Jean-Eric Verne has just been consistent. He's got a second at the second race in Rome. And he has a third place at the Portugal round. Robin Freins has a second and third as well. Mitch Evans has won both races at Rome, which is the reason why he's in the points. He's only 9 points back and forth. Eduardo Mortara won the second race at Saudi, and otherwise. So it's a basically 5-driver race right now, 11 points between Verne, Freins, Van Dorn, Evans, Mortara. Lauderer 6th, Verline 7th, Nick DeVries, the defending world champion, in 8th, Degrassi, former champion, 9th, Jake Dennis 10th, Antonio Felix da Casa, another champion, is in 12th. Oliver Askew is 17th in points. There are 4 drivers that haven't scored points this year: Tictum Sims, Sergio Sette Camara, and Antonio Giovinazzi, which isn't that shocking. Going into this weekend's Monaco E-Prix, then they'll be going to Germany after that for a doubleheader. The Berlin E-Prix, then Jakarta in Indonesia. The Vancouver race is canceled, so there will be more than a month between the race at Jakarta and then the New York City E-Prix, then London, Seoul to end the year there. The last thing we will go over in the roundup is the DTM. And getting into Felipe Fraga. Yeah, there you go. The schedule. First race, I think. Yeah, first race of the year here at the Algarve. And might as well go through the drivers. Dalé, yeah, he's a hack. Maximilian Gotz, the defending champion, will be racing in Mercedes. Kelvin van der Linde, former champion in the series, running an Audi. Ricardo Feller in an Audi. Esteban Muth, Walk-In Horse Motorsport. AF Corsa, Nick Cassidy, Felipe Fraga. They'll be running Ferraris with Red Bull. And you have Team Rosberg, they're running Audis with Dev Gore, the Indian American driver, and Nico Muller. Then you have GRT Grasser with Dalé, Schmidt, Inchline, Mirko Bartolotti. Then Group M, they're showing other people. Schubert Motorsport BMWs, Philip Beng and Sheldon van der Linde, the two factory BMW drivers. Esme Hockey and Nikki Team. That'll be, I guess, Aston Martin team, I guess. The App Sportsline team with Kelvin van der Linde, Rene Rast, Ricardo Feller. Walk-In Horse Motorsport with BMWs, Esteban Muth, Marco Wittmann. And then Windward, which will be Mercedes with Maximilian Gotz and Lucas Auer. So those are people there. So yeah, I think there's two women drivers because I think I forget what's her name. I follow her on Instagram. She's the one that tried to eat it at the whatever that race in Hong Kong. She tried to eat it there. I have to bring it up here, Josh. Just give me a second. I'm gonna go find her. You've had a break, so I just need to find her. Sophia Florsch. There you go. Sophia Florsch. I think she's driving this year. They didn't say anything. Vanderlyn, Rast DTM return, Lobes DTM entry, Vantor Porsche treating DTM like any other customer program. Rast says there's 20 drivers leading. Well, they had testing like 3 weeks ago. Sebastian Loeb ran for. I brought that up, and then Nico Muller. Yeah, so Alessandro Dalé next to last, which is probably where he's going to be most of the time. You had David Schumacher. You had Nico Muller led over Mirko Bortolotti, Marius Zug. That's a name. Rene Rast, Mikhail Grenier, Mauro Engel, Maximilian Gotz, Nicky Team, Marco Wittmann, Philip Eng. So, kind of fitting the narrative there. The Cassidy and Loeb shared a AF Corsa Ferrari there. Something. Arjun Maini was actually driving HRT Mercedes. So, interesting. We'll see what happens. We'll go and bring all that up next week on the GSP. I'm going to give Josh the floor here. I've been talking for way too long. IndyCar at Baba coming up this weekend. Joseph Newgarden has done a lot of work there in his career, amongst other people, but really in regards to IndyCar at Barber Motorsports Park, it's really been a Joseph Newgarden type of track, but Alex Palou went there and won his first career race last year. So Newgarden is a 3-time winner there. Ryan Hunter-Reay won 2 races. Will Powers won there twice. Simon Pagenaud's won there once. Elio Castroneves won there once. So Penske 3 or 5, 6, 7 wins at the racetrack. Takuma Sato won for Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan. So the last 2 years have been Honda, but generally a Penske racetrack. What are you looking at, Josh, in regards to this weekend's race and picks and the whole bit? Going to give you the floor here for a few moments.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think for this race, coming up at Barber, I think the story is this: can Joseph Newgarden go out and win a third consecutive race in a row? He's already won 2 in a row, and they've made mention of the fact that when last time he won 2 in a row, he went out and won the championship in 2017. So if he's able to do something like that, go 3 in a row, that sets himself up well for month of May at Indianapolis at the road course, and then on the oval at IMS, and could set him up well for the championship. And then I think on the flip side, you have Scott McLaughlin had a great start to the year, but then at Long Beach, they didn't run really well. They finished outside of the top 10 in that race, in 14th. They didn't really have a whole lot to show on a street course, which they thought they were going to be good at this year, but now is running the first road circuit of the year, so a little bit of a test there for McLaughlin if he can recover from that and go into this Grand Prix and finish well. Can he go out and finish on the podium or within the top 5? Can he do that? So that's going to be something to look out for Scott McLaughlin. I think other drivers you got to watch. You got to Scott McLaughlin. He's had a good start to the year, but first blemish, of course, at Long Beach, and now going here to Barber. Can he go out and recover from that? So we'll see what happens there. For you have 2 sides of Penske, one hot, one that was hot and maybe getting cold, and then of course Alex Palou, who was up there at Long Beach as well, with Joseph Newgarden. He's had a pretty good start to the year as well. Can he go out and defend his win from last year with the 10 car in this race, and get himself into championship contention, so at least show up and say that he's there to compete in this championship, which hasn't won a race quite yet. So get that first race win for Chip Ganassi Racing there, of course. And I think other drivers to talk about, Scott Dixon. He hasn't done quite as well as this year. He's kind of been a little bit under the radar, but now going out to Barber, can he make his mark along with his teammate Alex Palou? So that's something to look out for there. Romain Grosjean finished second at Long Beach, finished 5th at St. Petersburg. Andretti's not normally strong at Barber. They've kind of acknowledged that they're not really all that great at Barber Motorsports Park, but they could, Romain Grosjean has done pretty well in recent races, going back to last year when he was with Rick Ware Racing and Dale Coyne Racing. So can he come out at Barber and compete for points and compete for the podium and possibly a race win? He's knocking right on the door for race victory in this series. So get his first win at Barber Motorsports Park would definitely be pretty exciting there. McLaren, Pato Award, didn't have the greatest start to the year so far. 12th at St. Petersburg, and then 15th at Texas, and then finally got a good finish, 5th place at Long Beach. Can he continue the positive momentum from Long Beach and turn around his season from where he started? That's something to look out for. Then Colton Herta, of course, ran well at St. Petersburg and then Long Beach. Of course, we know he hit the wall, reminiscent of his thing at Nashville. Can he go out and come out here and finish pretty well at or have a good race uh, at Barber? So a lot of drivers here, have a lot on the line to compete in this race. Um, it's going to be interesting to see the front runners in this championship. Who we know the front runners are right now, of course, Newgarden, McLaughlin, and Palou. Um, Even Will Power, who's quietly been flying under the radar. I feel like this year, can they compete in this championship, in this race, and we'll see who can win, I guess, and define or has put their mark on the season so far, and potentially put their stake in the championship. And of course, Jimmy Johnson spun out a couple of times here last year in this race, and so far is I mean we've seen better from him on the road courses, but this race this was his debut race last year in Indy cars, so going back here for a second time, basically a 1 year anniversary of his debut in IndyCar, can he go out in this race and at least finish in mid pack? So a lot to talk about in this race, and a lot of storylines to go over for sure coming up at Baba, as you like to say.
Yeah, I mean, who are you looking at to win?
I mean, I think for me, I'm gonna go with the hot hand here and go with Newgarden. Go chalk, I guess, and pick him to go 3 in a row in the series.
Win $100,000 if he does that because of the I forget who the heck's doing the deal there. If you win, they had a deal for if you win X amount of races in a this to start the year. If you win 3 in a row, there they'll win 100,000. It would be his fourth win at Baba, as the great lead if he would say. Um, I mean, you brought up Scott Dixon. He's never won there either. St. Pete and Barber are two of the only tracks that Scott Dixon hasn't won at. Can he finally get through that? Set his season up to try to win number 7. That 7 championship. 7 is a big number in regards to championships in motorsports. Obviously, NASCAR there's 3 champions, including his teammate. Formula One there's 2. 7 championship. I mean, it's more in NHRA when you consider John Force and Warren Johnson, Bob Glidden, et cetera, et cetera. There's so many great champions there. You think about the rally championship, the Sebastians, Loeb has 9. I think OGA has 7. So, I mean, that's the thing. 7's a number. And so Dixon wants to get there. He's one of the greatest ever. Can he go and get the win at Baba to go and really set this year off? And when you look at the month of May, you have the road course, as you mentioned. You have double points at the Indianapolis 500. You have qualifying points for winning the pole at the Indianapolis 500. There's a whole lot that can come from this next month if you can really put one together. If you can get hot, it could be huge. And then that's momentum because the fact is Indy 500 leads in a Detroit doubleheader. Then you have Road America. So that if you can run a heater from Indianapolis 500 on, you could really set yourself up to win this championship. Newgarden's up by 5 points on McLaughlin. Palou is 15 points back. I mean, you're talking about a very close battle right now. I don't know why that brought up Peacock. Bringing up the event detail. They haven't posted the spotter guide or the race recap on their great website. I mean, for me, when it comes to the Indy cars right now, looking at this season, I mean, Penske has dominated so far, but when is Honda going to show up? When is Palou, of course, has an average of 4 finish, so he's up there, but he has 2 podiums so far this year. Can he defend his win there from last year? Dixon is in 5th, 6.3 average finish. But what can he do? You brought up Romain Grosjean, and he's due for a win. Be a big win for Andretti Autosport. They're not exactly at their highest point right now. Colton Herta has struggled. Even though he has a pole, he hasn't had the year that he probably wants to have to start this season, considering the momentum and other stuff going on in regards to his Formula One exploits. Same for Pato O'Ward. 2 guys that are probably going to Formula One or want to go to Formula One haven't had great starts to the year. When it comes to the Ganassi 3 regulars, they're all in the top 8, but they haven't had the results they probably want to really make anything happen. I think a Honda wins this race. I'm going to go and pick Alex Palou. I wanted to pick Scott Dixon. You know what? I'll pick Scott Dixon. Scott Dixon finally goes and wins at Barber.
Yeah, the Iceman.
And the Iceman goes and gets one. The Iceman cometh at Baba, beats Penske at a track that they've dominated at. I think Palou is going to have a good weekend as well, be able to cut into that points lead, and that will lead into, so you'll have the Penske Ganassi narrative going to the Indy Road Course in a few weeks' time. My dark horse pick, I don't know if you have one, Josh. I'm going to throw one out there myself. Dark horse pick for me, I'm going to go and hedge. You know what? I'll go Kyle Kirkwood because I'm a mark. I'll hedge for Kyle Kirkwood. He has experience there. He's won everywhere in his lower formulas career. So would be a place. I mean, AJ Foyt Racing has won on road courses with Takuma Sato in the past, and they have pace. He showed that pace at Texas. He had pace at Long Beach, finished in the top 10. It's a permanent road course. Be an opportunity. They have 3 cars, of course, this weekend, albeit the other 2 cars are useless. But Kyle Kirkwood, the experience keeps on building. Be an opportunity to see another top 10 finish there at Barber. How about you?
I think for me, a dark horse, I'll go with Felix Rosenquist. I feel like his track might be a track that suits him well, so go with him.
He's a guy. He has that Ganassi experience, and you're at the McLaren team when he's on, and everything kind of is setting up right. Felix Rosenquist is a really fast driver. He did in Formula E. He's done it in lower formulas in Europe. He's done it here. Give him a car. He's like Valtteri Bottas. I think in a lot of ways, Rosenquist is like Valtteri Bottas. If you put him, I think he would be perfect at Dale Coyne instead of one of these bigger efforts. He would be a guy that he would bring the team up. You kind of see his personality, whatever. He'd be able to do things. I think it's why he did so well at Mahindra in Formula E, because they're more of a family effort, closer knit, instead of the whole factory big business deal. I think that's part of the reason why they're with Chase too. But that's a good pick. I like the Rosenquist pick. The pressure is on his teammate, who has Formula One aspirations, considering what Daniel Ricciardo's doing. And, like Andretti Autosport, I didn't pick like Grosjean, but Colton Herta has a lot of pressure on him. It's a good opportunity there. We'll see what happens with that here, and we'll talk about it next week on the GSP. Next, we'll talk about Dover. A lot of racing there at Dover. Triple header, Dover Motor Speedway. They'll be running the three races will be running there. Or no, or not two. I said three races. It'll be two races. So it'll be XFinity. They'll have K&N. They'll have K&N racing there this weekend, but whatever. Who cares? They'll run the XFinity Series on Saturday at Dover, the A-Game 200. This coming weekend, they don't have entry list up yet. Doesn't look like. So that's kind of hard because we're doing this earlier in the week than we usually would. I'll be doing that early. So if you actually want to go to a race and get home at a reasonable time, you have to go to an Xfinity race. I'll start here in regards to the racing right now. For who do I look at to win the race on Saturday afternoon? I'm going to go with somebody that hasn't won. I'm going to go with Josh Berry. He needs the win to. I mean, he's not going to miss the playoffs, but I think Josh Berry goes and gets a dub at Dover this weekend. Tames the monster. Him and Allgaier are two guys I think that would be up there anyway. Wild card pick for me would be wild card pick for me. Yeah, it's tough because Dover is a tough racetrack to really go and look at certain people, certain things. Like you need to have. I'll go Alfredo. He's a Northeast guy. Fast Pasta, your boy, Josh, because of the iRacing and the sim game. I mean, I don't know who made that. I think Kurt Busch went and threw out the Fast Pasta reference during the Xfinity broadcast. He's been the best of the three cars at our Motorsports this year. But then I also think that helps. It helps when he has Pat Tryson, who's a great crew chief who's been in this sport forever and has experience with some of the legends like Mark Martin and battling for Cup Series championships and the whole bit. I think that's part of the reason why that team has been a little better than the 02 car and the 27 car so far this year. What are you looking at in regards to the Xfinity race here on Saturday for a winner and dark horse?
Yeah, I think for me, you went with Junior Motorsports, going with Josh Berry, and I'm gonna go with his teammate, Justin Allgaier. He's ran pretty well here at Dover in the past. He's always seems to be up front when it comes to racing at Dover and Junior Motorsports car. So go ahead and pick the teammate, the guy with the -1 number, number 7, Justin Allgaier, to win this race. And I think for me, wild card pick, I'm gonna go with Ryan Sieg. He's always kind of hanging around there in the top 15, top 10. So he always knows how to bring it home in a clean piece for the most part, and always, even though he's got a small team, they figure out how to bring it home in one piece. So that's what I'm gonna go with for a wild card pick this week.
And it is his sponsor. A Game is one of his sponsors, so it would be a good place for him to go and get that first win. Him and Cowboy Starlin, they have a good effort going on there. I think they have Stuart Haas help in regards to their program as well. It'd probably be a good spot for them to go and give them the help to go and get that win to solidify their spot in the playoffs. They helped Cole Custer with the SS Greenlight team get that win. I know Chase is going to be racing once this year for them, at least. But I figure, considering their circumstances, you're probably going to want to have him or Custer run more. But we'll see about that. The Cup Series race will be the Duramax Dryden 400. They'll be practicing on Saturday morning, which is part of why you should go on Saturday. You'll get practice and qualifying for the Cup Series. You'll get a race for the Xfinity Series. You also, and the practice and qualifying will be on Friday during the ARCA East Series deal. So you want to go up on Saturday, that's the day to go. If you're a Northeast person, if I was still willing to go, that's when I'd go. I'd go on Saturday. I wouldn't go on Sunday because you have to get up there ass crack of dawn to wait for a 3:20 start, and that race won't end until near 7 o'clock. You have to wait an hour plus to get out of the track, and then it'll be a 4-hour drive. So it's not a good deal. But in regards to picks and thoughts in regards to this weekend's race, I'll throw to you, Josh. Who are you looking at for this weekend at Dover?
Yeah, well, it's a tough pick right now because this race last year there wasn't a whole lot of passing throughout the field. It was not a very competitive race, and really the only passing for the lead came out on what was it, the uh, first lap, or not first lap, but the pit stops. Kyle Larson, Alex Bowman, and then Bowman just happened to have a good pit stop and won the race there. So
Yeah.
not a whole lot happened in that context. So what I'm looking at is probably a different race this time because it seems like this car is going to behave differently on this track. So I'm still going to go Hendrick though. I'll just pick Kyle Larson to win. He's probably due for a little bit of a turnaround. He finished 5th at Talladega, but other than that, it's been a little bit cold recently. But another win could turn it around for him. So it's definitely possible. We'll see what happens. If we can get the high line to come in this track, which we've seen before, but it seems like in recent times it hasn't been like that. But if get the high line to come in, at least work in a second groove, that would be interesting to watch here. But we'll see what happens. Because this track probably is a bit big, kind of an unknown. If we had Bristol, if it were still on concrete, we may have had a better idea because that's the other concrete track that exists on the Cup schedule. But since we don't have that, this is kind of a wild card race right now. Even though Dover, in the past has been quite boring. So we'll see what happens with this next gen debut at Dover here on Sunday.
Yeah, I hope they're able to lay rubber down on their track during whether it's the K&N series and then the Xfinity series. Hopefully the weather holds up. I would bring up the weather. I can do it right now. Dover, Delaware weather. Yeah, there you go. The point is the weekend is going to be clear. Temperatures are within reason for this time of year, which is basically the end of April, early 1st of May, versus when they used to run, which was the week after the Coca-Cola 600. So you're giving a month. It would be a lot warmer. If they're able to lay rubber down, I think this car is going to be able. I honestly, Byron, when he actually had a little personality and spoke on a microphone, he's saying this car is going to be really good there. I'm hoping he's right. He's a sim guy, iRacing guy. If you're able to make the high line work, if you're able to make that wall work, this track is insanely good. You have multiple grooves. When you talk about restarts, it could be really, really good. I have high hopes. I mean, SMI is going to close this track anyway, but as somebody who comes from this area, and it's a very close drive for me, if this car can do something the way it has in other places, it might keep Dover open. Um, we need tracks here in the Northeast. The fact that there's a bias towards the Northeast is BS. There's so many places they go to that suck, and they have 2 races. You need to go and stay around. If you're going to do one race weekend, that's fine. But don't bury them in a bad spot. I think if Dover was back in their June spot after the 600, it'd be a little more of a fair shake than where they are right now. It's kind of similar to Richmond. I think you need to move Richmond a little further back towards like May, right before the 600. Then you have the 600. Then you have Dover. I think it'd be fair. Pocono's in July now, so that's fine. In regards to the pick for this week, I'm going to pick Clyde. You picked Kyle Larson. I'm going to pick Clyde. He's won there before. I was there when he won. One of the times I was there recently, he won. So Clyde hasn't won yet this year. He's a points leader, overall points leader, over his buddy YRB. It'd be good for him in regards to trying to go and get that second championship, considering Byron's already got 2 wins. Bowman's got a win. Larson's got a win. When is Clyde going to get a win? He'll go and get that win on Sunday. In regards to a wild card pick, for me, I'm going to go with Daniel Suarez because I feel like I think I'm going to be picking Daniel Suarez a lot here in the next few weeks until that happens. I think whether it's manifesting it, not because of who his girlfriend is, the fact is Daniel Suarez is a person and his driving ability, he's due for a win. His teammate has 2 wins. You look at the trajectory of Trackhouse Racing, you're talking about teams like Petty GMS with Eric Jones getting up there and being able to compete with him and Dave Ellens. The fact that Ross Chastain has 2 wins, even the colleague team, even though they can't pass inspection, they have fast race cars. Suarez is due. If he gets this win, him and Tyler Reddick are the next 2 guys that are going to win a race. And I think both of them are going to win a race here in this next month or 6 weeks, something like that. You know, the 600 is a place where you get the first-time winner. You know, you got Darlington. It's not really. But Dover here, the 600, as we're getting into this next few weeks stretch, it's an opportunity. And Suarez is somebody that I look at to pick one off here soon because he's a good enough driver. He's got his head on his shoulders. He's a good guy. People, the LCD doesn't want to deal with him. Fuck him. He can do the job. He won an XFinity championship. Ride Rage quit, and Daniel Suarez took his spot, but he wasn't fully ready to take care of that. And Joe Gibbs ran him out door the way he ran Joey Logano out the door. So we'll see what happens with that. Let's go with. Let's get into the NFL draft, man. I'll. You have the number one overall pick. Your team has the number one overall pick. Is it going to be an edge on the defense? Is it going to be an offensive tackle? Are you going to trade out of the number one overall pick? This is another one to give to you because the Niners are going to be drafting. They're probably not going to get any capital to get into in Thursday's round. They're going to be in the second round, and they're probably drafting Alex Mack's replacement based on what everything came through John Lynch's press conference. They won't be drafting a safety, which is a problem. But maybe they can sign Tyrann Mathieu on a good deal but what are you guys going to do? What are you feeling, Josh?
Well, I mean, seems like this week the betting odds have flipped from Aiden Hutchinson going number one overall to Trayvon Walker, however you say his name, going first overall. Seems like Trent Baalke wants Trayvon Walker, defensive end from Georgia, but then owner Shad Khan wants Aiden Hutchinson, defensive end from Michigan. I mean, if I had my pick, I think I'll go Trayvon Walker. I mean, didn't have all the stats, I guess, but he's definitely a very productive player in Georgia, very athletic. Yeah, he doesn't have quite the, I guess, traits that Hutchinson does, or at least he hasn't proven himself as much. But I feel like he has better potential, and that's why you draft people number one is because they you feel like they're good enough, like even if they didn't have the production that they project to be a great player at the NFL. So
Yeah,
I think,
same way as Trent Baalke took Aldon Smith over a bunch of guys that are still in the league
and
right
he
now.
was good. He just he was good. He just got himself out of the league.
Had a drug problem.
Yeah, yeah, Alki, yeah. So, the uh that stuff aside, I mean, he was a good player, just couldn't last in the league. But Trayvon Walker, we'll see what happens. If they pick him. That'll be interesting to see. We need a Saxonville back. That's the Jaguars kind of their identity, I guess. Go look at the 90s, the mid 2000s. They part of their identity was having good defense. So good defense, came back 2017 and was kind of there 2018, 2019, but it hasn't really been there since. And they need a player that can complement Josh Allen. And I think Trayvon Walker is that guy. Aiden Hutchinson maybe could also complement Josh Allen, but I don't know how he will. I mean, I think he'll project fine, but I just think you take the guy that has the bigger potential, and that's what I think. And I'm not too high on Hutchinson. And, I mean, I'll be okay if they pick him, but it's not as the exciting pick, I guess. I mean, if they go offense, it's probably going to be Evan Neal tackle. But we'll see what happens there because they just franchised Cam Robinson, and then they've got. I think they could replace Jaywan Taylor, right tackle, but we'll see what happens there because he didn't have a really great 2021 or 2020. So a lot of ways they could go there for the number one overall pick, and then day two, pick number 33. I'm not going to go in the whole draft, but just the first few picks because those are pretty significant. But I expect they're probably going to draft a wide receiver for number 33, which is going to be interesting because Trent Baalke does not really have a good history picking wide receivers. So the wide receivers that he was responsible for picking as general manager just haven't worked out yet, and it hasn't really been successful there. But we'll see because it's definitely still a need. Jaguars, they signed Christian Kirk, signed Zay Jones in the offseason at wide receiver, but they still need that guy that can compete on the outside and take away, not really like take away defense, but like be able to compete and fight for the ball on the outside because Marvin Jones, he's definitely a possession receiver, someone that's going to benefit from the defense having to cover guys like Christian Kirk and whoever they pick to be their other guy. So we'll see what happens there. But I think, yeah, it's probably going to be Trayvon Walker and then wide receiver at number 33. So those are my expectations, I guess. And hopefully the Jaguars are able to come out of this draft better and fill most of their needs for their team and rebuilding this team after 2020, and then of course kind of getting back to where we thought they might what they thought they might have looked like in 2021 if it weren't for Urban Meyer and his incompetence.
Yeah, it's something where that division is somewhat wide open when you consider, uh, Indianapolis with Matt Ryan. You don't know what he has left. They've been going through quarterbacks ever since Andrew Luck's surprise retirement. Tennessee, they have a good team. Of course, Derrick Henry. They have a lot of good players, and Mike Vrabel, the coach of the year. But it's not exactly a given that Indianapolis, Tennessee are going to win. And I mean, Houston, they're the drizzling shits, but they have a quarterback in Davis Mills, serviceable. They have Lovie Smith, a coach that's made the Super Bowl. I think the only reason they hired him is because to go and fit the whole thing to cover themselves for the fact that they probably wanted to hire Josh McCown for the second year in a row. But, in the case of Jacksonville Jaguars, they should have hired Byron Leftwich. They didn't want to hire him because Shad Khan wasn't willing to fire Trent Baalke. Doug Peterson is like, well, I don't really have to worry about the GM. I just have to make his whole entire thing is like, I need to work with the Trevor Lawrence, get his head right, because I know Trevor Lawrence is freaking A1 kind of guy. And they have weapons. They have weapons at the running back position. They have weapons at the wide receiver. They overpaid for Christian Kirk, but whatever. That's fine. You have players, and in that division, you're able to make something happen. You don't know what's. I mean, the point is Peyton Manning threw, I don't know how many interceptions he did as a rookie. And the second year he made the playoffs. Why can't Trevor Lawrence do that? Why can't you do that? I mean, I brought up a mock draft here on CBSSports.com. Ryan Wilson did this 7 hours ago, and he has Ikem Ekwonu, the North Carolina State tackle, which at the end of the day isn't shocking to me. He's the other guy they've been talking about for a while, other than Evan Neal, as guys that would be, and it fits also the narrative. You brought up Trayvon Walker, Aiden Hutchinson, Evan Neal, and Ekwonu. Those are the four people that they're talking about. Now, who are they going to take? I figure they're going to go edge in the defensive line to go and mate with Josh Allen so that they can get the single coverage on both of them to go and be able to get that pass rush like they had with Ngakoue and that whole crew. I forgot the other guy, Calais Campbell, other people that you guys had.
Yeah, Dante Fowler, Calais
Dante
Campbell.
Fowler. Yeah, you had a great defense. The asshole that went to the LA Rams. I can say
Jalen
asshole
Ramsey.
that went to the LA Rams. Yeah, there's so many assholes that go to the LA Rams. It's unbelievable. This draft, Aiden Hutchinson goes to Detroit, which is whatever. Evan Neal, Kayvon Thibodeau goes to the Jets. Sauce Gardner, Charles Cross, the Mississippi State tackle, goes to Carolina instead of Kenny Pickett, which is interesting. Trayvon Walker, who you said would go number 1. New York Giants get him and Sauce Gardner. Atlanta goes with a wide receiver, Garrett Wilson. Derek Stingley goes to Seattle, who's got no hope anyway. And Jameson Williams goes to the Jets. That's the CBS guys' top 10. I mean, to be fair, going in mock drafting, it's funny how all these experts go in mock draft and they go and give their what they call their thoughts and their projections of what people are. And sometimes they're right. Most of the times they're wrong. So who knows? The draft is the fact is most people don't know about most of these players. This year's draft is gonna be interesting for multiple reasons. It's great for TV, and I'm intrigued. Niners don't have any capital until late in the second round for now. They need a center. Alex Mack's gone. They need safety. They need safety help. Need back end help. They need interior line, both on the defensive and offensive side, especially on the offensive line. Offensive line outside of the tackles right now is kind of an issue. So we've lost a lot of depth there. Alex Mack's likely retiring. Guard spots, we lost the one guard to the Jets. Forgetting his name. But we lost the one guard to the Jets. And then the other guard, the right side, has not been great. We're probably going to use Banks to get in at the right guard position next to McGlinchey. McGlinchey has not been exactly the most amazing player either. So we need to solidify our Banks to be on the left side with Trent Williams. So then we need right guard. You need to get basically the whole right side. So is Niners going to go and try to get up there for Lindenbaum out of Iowa, one of the centers? Are they going to try to get somebody off free agency? Something to be seen. We'll talk about it next week because it's really about Josh and his Jaguars and what they do, because in the end, they've had back-to-back number 1 picks, and that doesn't really happen all that often, and it doesn't speak to great things when it happens. You don't want to have that happen again. I mean, if it happens again, at least Trent Baalke will be gone. They're not going to fire Doug Peterson, but Trent Baalke will be gone, and maybe they'll have CM Punk be the GM, or Brian Danielson, or I don't know. I'm forgetting what the other guys are.
We should just
John
get
Moxley.
MJF, Maxwell James Friedman, or whatever his name is. They can just go and tell everybody that they're mid.
Yeah. Yeah, you should have John Moxley be your GM. It would be good, because then Elizabeth, or whatever the fuck her name is, would all of a sudden become a football fan, and then it would be hilarious, and she might bring a podcast back and then say she got canceled by random people. The way that she said that I was supposed to take her to a NASCAR race. But that's beside the point. I mean, she's on OnlyFans, I think, so these days, so I don't know who wants to look at that. On that transition, I'm going to throw to you, Josh. Your sim game, your boy tried to flip over and he won, and Junebug is doing things in the whatever I forget what the Ghost, whatever the hell that series was he was in. What are you doing here at preparing for Indy 500, since the Indy 500 is here a month away, getting to that? So what are you preparing for? How are you doing in regards to that.
Yeah, I mean, Dale Jr. was in the Moon Car League, which I guess that was his first race running in that series. A private league, I guess. I don't know how you get into it, but seems like it's a lot of fun, at least for Talladega and some of these other things. And they've done some other things with that guy on Twitter, Moonhead, has created a lot of content. And actually, I think I've raced like in so back in 2020. This is a little tangent. Back in 2020, like when I first got onto iRacing, the I don't know, the guys over at Barstool were like advertising some iRacing stuff online, and I think Moonhead was kind of a part of that. He was the one that was organizing the weeknight races or whatever, and I remember participating in a couple of those. So I think that may have been like the precursor to this thing, Moonhead League or whatever it's called. So I remember doing that, but yeah, back to this. Yeah, that was pretty entertaining to watch. Flipping like he's Bobby Allison, except he actually won the race. So pretty entertaining. And of course, he got a bunch of internet guys just yelling over into the broadcast and making it over the top and entertaining. So it's always fun to watch. And then I mean, for me, I attempted Talladega as well. It started out, the uh, first race I did, I think was like Thursday night or something, and that was just Cup, the Cup cars at Talladega, and uh, lost the draft pretty early on, but it was like the main pack got away from us, and it was just like everybody else, like from like 15th on back, basically in our own pack, and we were trying to maintain single file, but we couldn't do anything with it. And then at the end, like we all just started going for it, and uh, I ended up getting crashed on the last lap, so that was that. Then I did some Xfinity racing, and then um, I like the Xfinity racing, I guess, better on the super speedways, because at least I feel more comfortable bump drafting and tandem drafting than I do in the Cup car. So ran some of that. Um, was able to use the middle. That's the way to go. But then apparently, some people figured out the top, and then there was one point where I was having cars coming by me on both sides, and it was starting to get hard to hold it straight, and I felt like I was starting to get a little loose and got quite sketchy at sometimes. But finished in the top 10 in that. Then I did some more Cup racing and more Xfinity racing, I guess, too. And I think I finished top 10 in both of those. So Talladega is Talladega. Things happen um, throughout the race, and you got to make sure you avoid the wrecks and then survive the last lap. When all hell breaks loose. So that's how Talladega was for me. I think I also did Mazda Miata at Charlotte Road Course, which it's a pretty easy series, but I like the Miatas and race there, and I think I won that race. So, or I did win that race. So, it was pretty good there. Um, I think this week, I'm gonna have to start doing some of my own testing at Indianapolis, just on offline, just to get settled in for that and start figuring out like what to do for qualifying and all that stuff, because it's always important for Indianapolis. So maybe I'll focus in on that. As far as like the official series goes, probably do some 87s at Texas, because that's what's available right now, and at least practice. It's the old Texas, not the new one. So at least there'll be some tire wear. So rough track and a car with bias ply tires that you have to really manage the tires. Should be interesting to race on. Then probably maybe some Honda Civic Type R at the Laguna Seca Mazda Raceway, Laguna Seca. So, or WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca as it's known now. So definitely do that. Of course, when I am online, try to stream it as always on my Twitch, and you can watch or see the replay on there. Which, of course, I did stream a little bit of Talladega, which I posted on Saturday night. So if you want to see the replay from that and see the result from that, you can go on my Twitch and look at that.
Yeah, let us know your handles
Yeah,
since we're
we're recording this, so yeah. Of course, you can follow me on Twitch at Sailor 2, go there and watch my streams. Then you can, of course, go on my Twitter and follow me at JP Huffine and see all my stuff there as well. And then, of course, we got this new deal now, the YouTube channel, which you can go and watch us on this recording right now, what we're saying, the video feed. You can watch that Grip Strip podcast. Just search that up on YouTube, and you can see the past 5 episodes that are on there. Got some views on there, and we're continuing to try to grow this thing. And of course, be on the lookout for this video and then any other future content that we do on there. You can go on there, like the video, comment the video, and subscribe. And please put on post notifications so when we post those videos, and you can go and catch up on the podcast in video format if you so choose to do so. So yeah, that's where you can follow me, and then follow us as part of the video feed.
Yeah, and follow me at Philip G. Matthew on Twitter. Philip, or what is it, Gripster Pod on Twitter. Josh has been doing a great job posting content, posting our YouTube page where you get to watch us doing the show uncut. You can go and follow the show, Gripster Pod, of course, and then philipgmatthew.com, where the show will appear in audio form. We're on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, what's it called? Spotify, Podbean, Pandora. We're also on, Apple, Spotify, Pandora, and then iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and TuneIn. Basically, anywhere you can get a podcast, you can hear the Gripster podcast. Some of the ones that the British, European folks are on, I need to probably look at too. We're around. We're here. We do this podcast. It's a long form podcast. We do it for a reason, because we can get to cover everything. Josh does. You do your thing, and I appreciate you because you're able to go and carry things and also back me up. We do a great job here. We have fun. It's a passion project because we're working, we're trying to do our thing, but we love racing. And we appreciate everybody that downloads the show. We appreciate it. Go and give us a like, give us a subscribe, go and hit us up. Go and send us a message. Tell us what you want to hear, because we're here. We're just doing our thing. We want to go and build this. We want to make it better. We're trying to bring big guests. We're trying to bring legends on this show. The fact is, we can do that. I think Josh could go and talk Junior into it. But I'm talking to certain legends at that same level too that I've been fans of. I've been a fan of my whole life, and the reality is we could do that, but we need to know that people want to listen. Because if people want to listen, they'll show up because they can get to move their brands and do all that. Other than that, we're going to be back for episode 112. We'll go over Dover. We'll go over Baba. We'll go over all the other motorsports. We'll go over the NFL draft. Josh is going to have a lot to talk about in regards to that because his team needs to hit on a bunch of picks. And his GM is not exactly known for doing all that. Niners may trade a wide receiver / running back. Probably won't. But they have some holes to fill too. We'll talk all about that on episode 112 of the Gripster Podcast. We thank you for tuning in. For Josh, I'm Phil. If you want to go and hit us up on the socials. Let us know what you want to hear. Let us know if you want to be on. Because, hey, it's a freeform deal here. We're having fun. We thank you for listening. We thank you for giving us the time. And we'll see you next time. Take care.